2023 wasn't a good year for the Carolina Panthers, but I'm trying to make 2024 a better one for myself. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including keto options, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Skip that overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door, and they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Head to factormeals.com/C350 and use the promo code C350 to get 50% off. That's code C350 at factormeals.com/C350 to get 50% off.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Yo, what's the deal, Panther fans? It's your boy, Tony Dunn, a.k.a. The Professor. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. I do it each and every week with my homeboy, my co-pilot, the producer of this show, Cody Lashney. Welcome back.
Tony Dunn, what's up, brother? We are one day removed from potentially one of the biggest trades in Panthers history, depending on how it turns out. We definitely have a lot to talk about tonight. I feel a little bit differently than when we reacted yesterday, not for the worse or even for the better, but I just, after listening to Scott Fitterer, I just have a lot of thoughts on the future direction of the Panthers, and it's going to make for a fascinating discussion. But as always, we're going to do it with the best Panther fans in all of YouTube: Tim Estes, Lance Kubiak, Lynn Leon Hart, Chef Jeff, my cousin, what's up, brother? Jason Lewis, Andy Smith, Freddie Garcia, Adam Sanders, Tony Dunn. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
Hold up. All right. Whew. All right. So as you can tell, I am broadcasting from my wife's childhood bedroom. That's where I am at. I had some work done that was being done on my house, and they cut the cable internet cord. So this is a less than ideal situation, but the longest running Panthers podcast is going to bring it to you each and every week, no matter what, no matter the obstacles and the challenges that are facing us. And hey, look, all we're doing is talking about the Panthers. It's Tuesday night. What else is there to do? Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button, subscribe to the show. Had a big turnout for last night's show, man. Or yesterday's live reaction show to the Sam Darnold. Over 4,000 views on the video, 300 people live watching, a bunch of sub ups. It was awesome. My wife has a pink room. And look, there's pictures of her in her wedding dress up there now and stuff. It's the same as it was when she lived here. There's nothing changed. Poor people got to still sleep on that same terrible mattress, probably. Nah. Thank you to my in-laws for allowing this, and thank you to my mother for taking my kids tonight. Dude, when they cut the cable internet cord, my kids abandoned ship, dude. They were like, we're going to grandma's house.
I don't blame them, man.
They're like,
I don't blame them.
We're out of here, bro.
Who wants to live with the world with no internet? Come on. Especially being young.
There's a lot of cat calls tonight, and the challenge is going to be figuring out how to play them. I'm going to have to kind of work on that as we go along in this process and see how it works. Maybe you'll give me some feedback on how how the sound quality is. I'm going to have to kind of just hold my phone up to the microphone. Cody, you said that your thoughts you've adjusted your thoughts since yesterday. What has adjusted?
Well, after listening to Scott Fitterer, I really don't think, should the quarterback fall to us in the draft, which again, whether or not that happens probably doesn't seem too likely. But I really do think that if Justin Fields or Trey Lance does fall to us, this move doesn't prevent us from taking a quarterback. And a lot of us kind of felt like, well, now we're Sam Darnold and that's it. We're going to build around Sam. And even though I think that is ultimately what's going to happen, I don't necessarily, especially when you consider trade ups and the teams picking in front of us, I think teams are probably going to potentially trade up to get Justin Fields or Trey Lance. But depending on the evaluation that the coaching staff has about those two men in particular, Justin Fields and Trey Lance, if either one of them are there, it's not surprising me if we still go quarterback, because I think this move sets us up perfectly to go best player available, no matter what, no matter who that is. And I think that is one of the big benefits of this move, because while we're hopeful about Sam Darnold, we're not tethered to him for a long time.
We're tethered to him less than we were to Teddy Bridgewater, honestly.
Well, for sure. How many millions less worth of a tether?
It's if we pick up his 5th-year option, I think he's going to count 9 against our cap this year. I read, and 18 million if we pick up the 5th-year option. So you're talking about if you pick up that option, which I heard reports that they were, but I think that's premature at this point. Maybe we're wrong. But, that's still less than you're paying Teddy Bridgewater to not be on the team, basically. So I agree with you. As I put up a story yesterday on CarolinaCatChronicles.com that the acquisition of Sam Darnold lessens the pressure in the NFL draft for the Carolina Panthers. Because we really were in a rock and a hard spot, right? And that's why we all complained and cried about 8, picking at 8 instead of 3, is that you're just outside the range of getting the guy that you're hoping to get. So either you have to go push all the chips and move up, or you got to run it back, or you got to figure something else out. And we figured something else out. And now there are all of a sudden more and more people are starting to wonder if a quarterback slips. It's not out of this world to think that a quarterback could slip to, say, 8, right? But to count on it would be foolish, right? And so I do think that this gives you some flexibility, kind of gets you, instead of having your back in the corner. But if anything, it tells you and shows you how, kind of done the Carolina Panthers were and are with Teddy Bridgewater. Now, we got a lot of cat calls we're going to be getting to tonight, but I think that if you want to see our kind of the in-depth talk about what we thought about the trade itself, and obviously we'll have to talk about that tonight because the calls are going to lead us through that, the value, what this means for the team. We put out a live reaction video yesterday as this was unfolding, so go check that out. But the news, I guess, kind of that spiraled sense, or the questions, is like, what do we do with Teddy? And they asked Scott Fitterer this, and Scott Fitterer said, we're going to find the right place for Teddy, whether that's here or somewhere else, indicating that, they weren't opposed to moving him. And we knew they weren't opposed to moving him because they tried to trade him for Matt Stafford or part of that deal. Now, today, I think it was Ian Rappaport reported that the Carolina Panthers have, given Teddy's agent and Teddy permission to seek a trade. So he can dictate to some effect where maybe he lands, or at least kind of facilitate this. I always love this. It's my favorite. They did this to Cam. It's like, we done with you. But you can go find your next home if you want.
Yeah,
Like,
we'll
we're
give
doing you
you.
a favor.
We'll give you permission. So yeah, if you want to go somewhere else, we'll let you do that. It's just so dumb, man. Like, look, we've talked about this multiple times. We have a lot more to talk about, so I don't want to beat a dead horse. But Marty Hurney signing Teddy Bridgewater to that big of a contract was pointless, and it was a terrible move and indicative of a GM that continued to overpay people. So, again, I'm just so happy that we have a forward-thinking, proactive general manager now. I have so much hope and faith in Scott Fitterer based on what he's been able to do in a really short amount of time. So, I'm really liking what he's done. I think that we are truly setting ourselves up to have a really good draft and be able to put some high quality talent on the football team.
Just yes, a couple of house keeping things. We signed a guy by the name of Martinez today at offensive line that's probably never played and that no one knows their name. Going back and seeing some things. What do you? I guess some of the kind of the news surrounding it is I saw an article on The Athletic about grading the trade, and they gave the Jets an A. They gave the Panthers a C. Right. And one of the things is that
they give the Jets an A and the Panthers a C?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the dumbest shit in the world to me.
This is the reason. Here's the rationale for why the Panthers get a C for this. There's no doubt this is a big gamble. Not only has Darnold played poorly, but he's missed 10 games in 3 seasons. I like the idea of a team taking a low-risk gamble on Darnold, but that's not exactly what the Panthers did here. When the Titans acquired Tannehill, they gave up a 4th and a 7th and got a 6th in return. Carolina is giving up a 2nd, a 4th, and a 6th. The truth is that Tannehill's career has very much been the exception. I can see the Panthers being attracted to Darnold's upside, given how young he is, and less than $12 million per season over the next 2 years. He's an inexpensive option. But it seems like they got impatient and decided that regardless of what options were available to them, they had to make a move this offseason. I'm not sure that will prove to be the wisest choice. They could have just as easily run it back with Teddy Bridgewater and seen what options were available after the 2021 season. If the Panthers' internal evaluations support the idea that Darnold has a real upside, then they're taking a reasonable risk. But if they just made this trade because nothing else worked out and they felt like they had to do something, they could regret their lack of patience in the offseason. That's the justification there.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with any of that. Like, listen, if you want to say that a 2nd round pick in 2022 is too much, I mean, yeah, look, is it kind of rich? Sure, but so what, dude? You have to, I'm a firm believer you have to pay to play. Like, the Panthers, for how long, have pretty much been relatively, uneventful when it comes to trades, right? Not a lot of trades up, not a lot of trades back. At least that's not really what we're known for. But when we want to make a move, dude, sometimes you have to pay a little bit. And like I said, this is an insurance policy that has the potential to really pay off for us. If Teddy Bridgewater gets traded, we're probably going to recoup some of those picks anyway. And we have a 2-year lease on a guy who just a few years ago was supposed to be the number 1 pick in the draft, who was, as people have pointed out in the chat, was with the team that didn't have a quarterback coach, had a head coach that was notorious for players leaving him, going to other football teams and rejuvenating their career. So, I have no reason to not be more hopeful about Sam Darnold. There is a reason to believe in him. And we're also not being hypocritical either. If he doesn't pan out, we're not obliged to continue to pat him on the back. We can move on more easily.
All right, the number's 252-228-5098. We're going to try to run the calls a couple of different ways and see which one works out. Cody, you're going to have to tell me right off the bat, what can you hear when I do it this way?
Carolina Panthers are just thirsty, bro. They're too fucking thirsty.
Yeah, I
Like,
can hear
goddamn, do you need to drink the fucking water, bro? Y'all motherfuckers are thirsty as fuck. Y'all motherfuckers would fuck anybody, bro. Anybody. Like, this is crazy. Like, this is another nightmare for me. Another goddamn nightmare, man. This is another goddamn nightmare. Like, what are, like... Hyping
Is
us
he
up
really
about
about to
Deshaun
cry?
Watson, like, bro, these niggas, man, getting all this hype about Deshaun Watson for us to trade for fucking Sam Darnold with Teddy Bridgewater still on the fucking team. I mean, we still have...
Oh, he's
This is
taking it
why-
rough.
Oh, my God. I can't even talk, dude. I'm so fucking mad. We had the third pick. All we had to do was lose.
I know it, man.
We fucked ourselves so bad.
Oh,
beating
gee, baby.
Washington over some pride. Because they didn't want Ron Rivera to win.
All right. Thanks, G Baby, for the call. I think that's a little. I think that's a little too pessimistic. One thing is we didn't hear why. What G Baby didn't give us is why this was such a terrible decision.
Well, I mean, can we be honest about this though? There is, and let's just call it like it is. There is a large contingent of Panther fans who feel this way. That they feel like we're hooking our long-term future on Sam Darnold. And again, we may be. To me, this isn't as certain to everyone else that we are doing that. I genuinely do believe. Now, again, I don't know the personal evaluations that Scott Fitterer, Matt Rule, and Joe Brady have.
They have to be
on
positive. They have
quarterbacks.
to be positive.
Yeah.
When it comes to Darnold, or else they wouldn't have traded.
Yeah, I think that the Panthers didn't want to take the chance of not having a backup plan just in case the quarterback didn't fall to them. But again, a lot of people feel like G Baby, and we can't deny it. And I don't even want to come down too hard on people that are mad at this, because it's like there's a lot of bad film from Sam Darnold, given bad coach, all these other bad scenarios, but still an overthrow is an overthrow. A throw into double coverage is a throw into double coverage.
But what's the alternative? I guess for me is that all right? So I mean, is that he might be bad. He might be bad, and he very and how about we even give? He was like the worst in passing. Like he's had the worst QBR and stuff like that. I mean, it's been bad, and it might be bad, and it might But at the end of the day, is that we also knew it wasn't going to be good the other way. And if you're not going to get what, at least this is a try. I guess what I'm saying. It's it's something. Yeah. It's like it's a what? If it doesn't work, then guess where we're at. We're in a spot that's a good spot for us because we're going to need to get a quarterback next year.
Yeah, a top 10 pick. We have a good insurance policy with a player that was in a bad situation, that was supposed to be the number one pick in the draft. My thing is this. The people that were ready to anoint Teddy Bridgewater and just throw their entire fandom behind Teddy, like now they're some of the loudest critics of Sam Darnold.
They have isn't it strange? It feels like it's a requirement for. Sorry, I'm trying to get this microphone set up right. It feels like a requirement. Like if you didn't like Teddy, you have to like the idea of Sam Darnold, and vice versa. If you liked Teddy Bridgewater, you have to dislike the idea of Sam Darnold. I don't know why that's necessarily true. But I think we could just dislike Teddy. That's my point. Is like I was not ready for another year of Teddy.
Yeah, and the Panthers front office weren't ready for another year of Teddy Bridgewater. And
This is better than Fitzpatrick, right? It's cheap. It's first of all, you can afford it. That's the thing is that
23 years old.
Well, yeah. And you know who likes him a lot? Christian McCaffrey. Like they're buds.
Yeah, they've trained together before apparently. Somebody was posting. Yeah, I mean they're both California boys. Or well, McCaffrey was born in Colorado, but played college in California.
All right, let's go to the next goal.
The Carolina Panthers are just thirsty, bro.
Nope, that's the same goal.
They're too fucking.
Hey, this is Kevin from Charleston. So reading the news, we got Sam Darnold, and I kind of feel like this is my doing because a couple of months ago I called into this show with a shitty, fake New York accent talking about how we're gonna get Sam Darnold, right? And I said that shit just joking. I didn't think we're actually gonna fucking get Sam Darnold. The fuck. So, depending on how he plays out, I kind of feel I owe Panther Nation an apology. But, maybe he works out. Who knows? All I know is that I'm going to be cheering for fucking Sam Darnold all fucking year. Fucking right, baby. Woo!
Hey, boy. Sammy Darnold down here with the Panthers. I'm ready for it, man. I'm ready for it. Listen, like we alluded to last podcast, man, like the fact that no matter what, we're going to be able to go into this draft thinking that we have a chance. Either Sam Darnold is going to be able to have an opportunity to take his game to the next level, or we're going to potentially draft one. So, again, everything is on the table for us. Like, nothing is out of bounds. We could take the best corner available, the best offensive tackle. There's a lot of options for us.
My son just texted me. He said, "Tell Cody to watch his language." And it wasn't Cody, it was G Baby, or Noni's going to find him and wash his mouth out with soap. They're at my mom's house watching right now. I think this is that's where I'm actually kind of kind of puzzled by people who are upset about this. Or maybe not upset. Not, it's kind of, you can't lump everybody into one group, right? That's not fair either. But at the same time, one of the things that people were so upset about with the trade up to 2, trade up to 3, we got to get a quarterback no matter what the cost is, that we got to do all these things. I mean, give everything for Deshaun Watson. They kept saying that it was just too rich, too expensive. And the argument for the trade uppers, like Cody would make, is that, yes, it's expensive, but until you have secured that possession, it doesn't matter what else you do. And
no, Tony cut himself off.
How did I cut out? Did I cut out?
I don't know. Yeah, you cut out for a second. You're back now.
All right, and we switched spots. But like, is that this this gives us flexibility, and that's what I like about it, is we can go into this draft and we can pick a quarterback if he's there, and if it's not there, we can pick a tackle.
Yeah,
but we don't have to be forced to overdraft for Mac Jones or overdraft Mond in the second or something like that. So that's what I like about this, is I like the opportunity, the upside. I like the idea of non-Teddy, and I like the idea of being able to do what you can in the draft to the best of your ability without, just being forced. In poker, they call this short stack, right? When you have the short stack, you got to play cards that you don't like to play because you ain't got a lot of time to double your chips, right? And this at least bought the Panthers time. And if this wasn't the year, we don't got to overpay. And we can always wait to see what happens with Deshaun Watson. All right, let's go to the next call.
Hey guys, Chad down here in Charleston. Just wanted to
What's
call
up, Chad?
and ask a question, or kind of make a prediction, and then ask you guys what your thoughts are. I think we're going to have a choice of 2 quarterbacks at 8. I think we're going to stay put at 8, possibly 7, maybe move up to 7, but probably stay put at 8. We're going to have a choice of Justin Fields or Trey Lance. I think, Trevor Lawrence going 1, Zach Wilson 2 is a lock. I do think the Niners moved up to 3 to get Mac Jones. I think the Falcons are going to go either best offensive tackle or Kyle Pitts at 4, most likely Kyle Pitts. Bengals are going to go tackle or Jamar Chase, but looking more and more like Jamar Chase after his pro day. So Falcons, I'm going Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase with the Bengals. Dolphins at 6, probably going to take either Waddle or Devontae Smith, get a weapon for Tua. And then you have the Lions at 7, who could, and you still have at this point Fields and Lance left. So I could see us either trading up there to secure a guy and taking Lance or Fields there, or waiting and taking whoever's left at 8. So just curious what you guys think. I think we've played this brilliantly looking at it now. I know that everybody's sort of like, we're going to miss out, and the top 4 picks are going to be quarterbacks. I actually don't think that's the case. I think Lance and Fields are more of a wild card. Even Mac Jones to me, but the Niners love him. But Lawrence and Wilson seem to be the only guarantees. Lance and Fields a little bit more of a wild card, which I'm happy with, because that probably lets us get one of them. Curious who you take if they're both available at 8, or if we have to trade up to 7 or even 5, and they're both available. Which one do you grab? Appreciate it, guys. Love the podcast. Thanks.
I wonder if that was before the Sam Darnold trade somehow. He didn't mention it, did he?
That call was made on Monday at 4:05. Wait, April 1st. Hold on, is that from April 1st?
Yeah, if that was April 1st, that was way before Darnold. There's no way that we're trading up now. So that's what this move guarantees, is that the only thing that the Panthers are guaranteed to not do is trade up for a quarterback. They have no reason to now with Teddy on the roster, and maybe we trade him. There's been some reports that the Denver Broncos are interested in trading for him. But overall, I think having Sam Darnold on the team means that we're not going to be too aggressive trying to jump up and give up a bunch of picks and draft capital to go get a quarterback.
So one of the things that I was reading is that since the Atlanta Falcons have opened up the store for business and have reported that they're willing to entertain trades at number 4, you have teams like Denver that could be jumping there, right, trying to get that spot. There's some teams that are in the middle of the pack that need a quarterback that might entertain jumping to 4. I was reading the Miami Dolphins blog, though, and they were talking about how the Panthers trading for Darnold kind of has these effects on their own draft. And they continued to ultimately think that Miami likes to play this shuffle around to get more picks and get more assets, and that they traded back into the 6th and were maybe entertained trading out of the 6th if someone made a good deal to them. And the Panthers being one of the teams they thought could be that, right? The people are going to have to still get ahead of the Panthers if they want to get a quarterback now. So, all right, the number's 252-228-5098. Let's keep plowing through the calls.
You guys, I for years I've loved the content and everything that you guys have just done on this show, but I can't do it no more. I can't. I've been in fam since '95. I was 4. Bro, I just can't. The agony, the strain, the mental strain this team has put on me in the past 2 fucking years it's gotten me to the point where I'm going insane. I'm literally going insane. So first of all, you give this big contract to Teddy Bridgewater, right?
That's a problem.
Go around and trade for another QB that's possibly worse than he is. This makes, bro, I'm broken. I'm on the verge of fucking crying because the mental state that this fucking team has kept me in for the past few years. We had Cam Newton with 1 year left on his contract. We went from Cam Newton to having Cam Newton on 1 year left on his contract to giving Teddy Bridgewater a 3-year deal to now trading for Sam Darnold, which Teddy Bridgewater is still on the fucking team. This is crazy. David Tepper doesn't know a goddamn thing about football. I genuinely believe that. And Cody, I'm sorry, you're wrong, bro. Every move that has been made, G, is because of fucking David fucking Tepper and not Marty Hurney, bro. I'm sorry. He's out of this. So who are we going to blame now, Cody? Are we going to blame Marty Hurney for this fucking move we just made for fucking Sam Darnold? He's gone, bro. He's fucking gone, man. So what the fuck
All right, G-Baby. G-Baby is upset about this move, and I disagree a little bit. Is that, like, I mean, I guess what's the alternative is my question to G-Baby at this point. But he does raise an interesting question when it comes to the plan and the plan that David Tepper, a lot of fans were talking about the letter that was sent out to PSL owners last year calling for patience as we brought in a new coach and trying to do it the right way. And even, now David Tepper has been classified as an impatient man by the media. And I'm talking Joe Person is now like straight calling. They're calling the owner out as impatient. Like they know him. Like he can't take this no more. He can't take losing. I don't know how close to him they are. But yeah, as they have classified him as that. CK, welcome to the C3 Panthers podcast.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We are doing, and that's it. That's what we're doing. We're talking about this stuff. I think this. Hold on, I want to see. Nope, I thought my kids called in. Can't find it. Michael, if you're watching and you called in, text me and tell me what the last 4 digits of your own phone number are.
Yeah, but CK, now that you're joining us, why don't you give us that those beautiful pipes and let these subscribers know a little something that we got to do to them.
Over. This is Cody Allen, and I must say, all of you people and subscribers that have failed to hit that like button in the chat. Subscriber shame.
Subscriber shame. Do what my man Zero Chill has to say. There's 116 people watching. Hit the thumbs up. We appreciate you coming in here and hanging out with us, man, talking about some Panther football. And listen, I understand where G-Baby is coming from, man. I know that guy's in his emotions. I know he's in his feelings. Let's be real. We've had one of the most electric quarterback prospects of the past decade as our franchise quarterback in Cam Newton. And listen, I don't hide my past. I tell everyone openly that Cam Newton is what brought me to the Carolina Panthers, right? Now, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm not a bandwagon fan. I'm not going anywhere. But for those of us fans that have been around and have never known another time other than this incredible quarterback leading our football team, yeah, it's a weird feeling and honestly kind of depressing when you have to go through this quarterback carousel, and it's uncharted territory for a lot of fans. So I don't necessarily blame him. I would just caution him and say, dude, give him a chance. And also, we're not hitching all of our future to Sam Darnold. We have an ability to turn around from this relatively fast if it doesn't work out.
This is a cheaper, this is a better move than the Teddy Bridgewater acquisition.
Yeah.
And what I mean, and maybe Teddy Bridgewater turns out to be better than Sam Darnold ever will be, right? Maybe it just doesn't work out, but the cost is less. The cost is in draft capital, not in actual long-term financial obligation. And that's been the problem with Teddy Bridgewater, is that they had to, and kudos to this coaching staff and David Tepper for just admitting that they got it wrong with Teddy Bridgewater.
Can you tell me this? I mean, like, we even say, yes, it's just some picks. Like, even if you think about it from that perspective, it's really only 2 legitimate picks. Because it's the conditional, we got the compensatory pick. That's the one we traded away this year, was the compensatory.
Yeah, I mean, look, the 6 is nothing. Yeah, you're right. That one's a free pick.
That was a free pick that we didn't. It's not everybody gets, yeah, but it's not one that you come into the season like thinking, oh, we're gonna get this year, right? You don't bank on getting compensatory, whatever. I can't say the word. Those types of picks. So I mean, getting rid of that's nothing. The biggest thing, I mean, this is really, if you want to look at it from that perspective, it's a 2nd round and a 4th round in 2022. It doesn't really impact us this draft in the slightest.
Yeah, I mean, is that it does give us some problems in next year's draft. We like I said in my article on CarolinaCatChronicles.com, that Sam Darnold lessens the pressure on the Carolina Panthers draft this year, but it does affect our draft next year, right? And like I said, I would have preferred if it was a 3rd or a 4th rather than a 2nd, but that is not what it is. The Panthers, maybe, and that's what really is that, like, what are we going to argue about, that the idea is a terrible idea? Are we going to argue about that the cost was too much? Are we going to argue, or are we going to argue both? And maybe there's an argument for all of that. But we've seen too, is that these draft picks seem great when we're waiting for the draft, but ultimately a 4th round pick, they rarely hit 2. It's hard to hit on, so it's not absurd. It's a lot cheaper than trading up. We took the cheaper route, and maybe it doesn't work. All right, here, let's see what we got. This is going to be a special call.
We have a little football challenge for you. Let's see if you really know so much about football. No phones. Okay, first question. Who invented the first football?
Oh.
Second question. How big, what's the size of the football, exact size in inches? Approximately. Third question. What is the football shape? And final question. What is the nickname on every football? Thank you for your time, and just remember, no phones, or you do not know as much of it. No cheating. We're watching you, and just to let you know, if you use a phone, and no computers either, no searching it up, or we'll know.
Oh, who's making these rules here, man?
All right, this is a call from my mother and my 3 children, where that was my son, my oldest, who doesn't even like football. So, Michael, you tell me, did you know those answers without Googling them up?
I'm gonna guess it's a foot long, as it is a football.
Oh, that's a good guess. I didn't ever think of it like that.
I mean, is that right?
All of these ideas, all this time, I've been sitting here thinking they called it football because it had to do with your feet. And that's why we always say they call it football. They call soccer in England. Maybe it's a foot. I thought it was like 18 inches. I'm saying 18 inches is my guess on.
You might be right.
Keelan Slaughter says it's a square.
Square.
I call it egg shaped. What is
man.
that? Is that like a oblong, oblique? I don't know. I call it an egg shape. And who invented the first football?
I have no problem saying I know the answer to none of these questions.
James Naismith. That sounds like basketball. That sounds like the guy that either invented hockey or basketball. So very, very tough questions from my family. Hard hitting from the kids. Thank you for calling in. Don't listen to the rest of the show because we use foul language.
particularly like this call right here, I'm guessing has foul language. So earplug it, children.
My dude, we got somebody, and I think he's better than Teddy, bro. Like I don't really watch nobody other than the Carolina Panthers, bro. But man, this dude does have an arm, man, and I think it's a good move. And we didn't give much. Like we literally gonna give most of that back by trading Teddy away. Like, man, salute to the motherfucking to the GOAT fucking to the homie fucking to the Scotty Fit, man. Scotty Fit, man. You bring so much positivity to the Carolina Panthers. I'm so happy with Tepper's decision on that.
I love it.
It's better.
Decision.
All right, so your options are right here because only maybe a Lancer Fields maybe is falling, but the one thing that is most likely for sure falling is that fucking Mac Jones will fall. And who would you rather have? And I really think there's a lot of upside to Sam Darnold. Like everybody's saying Tannehill 2.0, and like fuck it. If people could argue he's better than him, and Tannehill just got a fucking huge contract. Man, I can't wait to see how this season unfolds, man. Our defense is looking beastie, and our fucking offense can throw past 20 yards. Good God. With all these fucking speedy-ass weapons, please, oh God, like, man, my only fear, though, is he's going to play so good we got to re-sign him. Like, that's a major ass. That's the only fear. But, like, that's a good prop to fucking have.
Yeah, that's not a bad
QT0 out here from fucking Cali. I'm actually in Oregon, but keep pounding, man. There's Carolina fans out here, man. I'm over here doing this little DoorDash and shit, and I fucking some dude saw me with my Carolina flag, and he was like, "Keep pounding, bro." Like,
hey, that's what's up, man. Shout out,
man. We out here everywhere. Don't be sleeping on us. Don't be sleeping on the blue and black, baby. Woo woo.
Let's go. Woo, woo.
Hashtag decline now, boy.
That was a good call right there. My kid just texted me and said, we have outsmarted you. All right. Well done, Michael Dunn. And did I tell you guys about my son on Pi Day?
On Pi Day?
I think I told you about this in the last show.
He's not watching, is he?
Yeah, he's watching. I mean, and it's okay.
American Pi Day?
No. Like as in 3/14, like March 14th, because it's like 3.14.
Yep.
I didn't tell you guys about this.
I don't think so.
So I picked my kid up from school, and he walks out of school, and he's holding this little apple pie. I was like, "Oh, what'd you get this apple pie for?" He said, "I won Pi Day." I was like, "Well, what's that?" He's like, "It's the 3.14. You know, it's you get I won for the person who remembered the most digits, like past 3.14. I was like, "Oh, that's awesome, dude." He said yes, and I mean, he's not bragging. He doesn't like, he wasn't even excited about it. He said, yeah, I set the school record, all-time record. I was like, whoa. I was like, well, what's that? He said 237 digits.
Damn, man.
Yeah.
Dude,
and my man,
that's a ton.
My man said this. He said, yeah, I was at like one. He had he remembered 92 digits the morning of the day.
Is your son got a photographic memory?
I mean, it's kind of close. Like it's like I've wondered at sometimes when he was young if that was the case. But so he learned like 92 digits in the morning of 237. I was like, well, this is all, like, I was so pumped. Like, this was the coolest thing ever. And he said, I said, well, hey, here's the challenge. Like, why don't you get to 300? He's like, nah, I'm good. I was like, he's like, all right, I already set the record. And I was like,
yeah, right.
I said, I'll give you $50 if you do it. And he was like, nah, I'm all right. And I was like, you did all of this for a $4 pie from Food Lion, but you won't do a couple more digits for $50 that you would do whatever with. And he's like, nah, I'm all right. But I kind of, it's like, all right, whatever. All for staying. The next day he texted me. He said, he showed me a copy of a test he took. Like, there's a game you can play online to do it. He's like, I got to 300. He said, I'll take that in cash. And then my man said this. He said, man, there's some really cool patterns in the back end. I was like, oh, like, patterns? Oh, gosh.
Nerd. By the way, Len says she definitely takes after your wife.
Memory, yes. Memory, yes. That's the truth. I don't have, and maybe it's been burnt away in some ways, but I have a good memory for long-term events, but like a quick recollection and names, bad for me, strangely. As a historian, there's a lot of irony there. All right, next call, 252-228-5098.
April Fools. The Panthers just played an April Fool's prank on us. Boys. We signed Sam Darnold. I'm guessing we didn't feel too confident in our chances, and nobody wanted to trade up with us. So, take a roll of the dice, a big roll of the dice on Sam Darnold. Homeboy has played in 38 games and has 39 interceptions. Homeboy is averaging more than a pick a game. That was pitiful. I'm gonna say that. That's pitiful. Still has Teddy Bridgewater on the team. I guess they didn't want the bag of chips, so then stale for them because they already tried that. They did not like that flavor. But after reading the story, I felt just a little bit better about what's going on because we have him on a potential one-year deal. What we should have done with Teddy Bridgewater. We should have rolled the dice on Teddy for 1 year because we're stuck with Teddy for 20-something million. But now we have Darnold 1 year left on his rookie deal with the option. I think there's a few more weeks that we have a chance to extend him with a fifth-year option for $18 million with Darnold. So I think we need to stay on the 1 year deal. If he falls out, and then consider a contract extension now that we stuck our foot in the mud again. So it's starting to feel more like quicksand, but I think the Panthers played a late April prank on us. Let's run this one back.
All right. One of the things I want to come back to is the high interception rate by Sam Darnold. He has the highest completion percentage he had was in 2019. He started 13 games that year. He threw the ball 441 times. That was the most attempts out of his 3 seasons, not by much. They asked him to throw the ball 414 times in his rookie year. His interceptions went down in year 2, though. So he had a lot in his rookie year, 15, 13, 11. They're going down. Cody, did you have any chance to watch any of the film today? And did you see any tendencies that we can kind of try to say, or is this just what it is? Is he a turnover machine? Is he just reckless? What's going on? Because with Teddy Bridgewater did come, he attempted 492 passes last year and 11 interceptions as well. You know, both had 11 interceptions. Teddy played 15 games. Darnold played 12.
So I before the trade happened yesterday, I was deep on some film review, and I had like 7 players that I had left that I had to look at that I was really trying to power through. So I didn't do a film room today, but I'm going to do a film room tomorrow. And I put up a poll on Twitter to see what prospect people want me to look at and do a video about. Because frankly, there's a lot of I'm getting a lot of requests to do Rashawn Slater. I've gotten Kyle Pitts. People on Twitter want that Sam Darnold film review, and I think a lot of people in the chat room do as well. I'm going to do my best to get some film from his days at USC and some of his film from the Jets, so that way we can look at some of the good, look at some of the bad. One of the things that I can say about this in the small time that I have spent watching some Sam Darnold is a lot of the big criticism is his tendency to throw into double coverage. Like there are times when he just has these what I call fuck it throws where he'll just throw it down there and hope someone comes down with the football because they were always depending on Sam Darnold to make a play. The New York Jets were 0-10 in games that Sam Darnold did not play. So that really tells you.
And they were 2-6 in games he did. No, I don't know.
They were really dependent on my man. So again, I'm not absolving him of the blame here. He definitely made some poor decisions and was throwing the football to bad spots. My thing is they required him to do a whole lot with not a whole lot of help. So that's why I'm hopeful about what he has the potential to do in our offense. But yeah, he really has to take care of the football better. And as long as our offense has open guys down the field, I really don't think he's going to have a problem connecting. I really don't.
Yeah, is that and this is going to put one of the things is that, and this is where the optimism kind of resounds when it comes to this, is that we're kind of getting what is supposedly a blue chip prospect that checks all the boxes that hasn't put it all together, and he has been in a bad situation, and not that should absolve him entirely. But if one of the things that so people, as we argued. Panther fans like to argue with each other more than we like to argue with damn Atlanta Falcon fans. It's the strangest thing in some cases, right? But as we argued whether or not, I was in these brutal battles about how good our offensive line was. And I'm of a firm opinion. Now, I'm not a football expert. All this is eye test to me. I watch the games every week. I pay attention. And like I know drives up. I know a pretty girl when she walks by. I know a beautiful car when it drives by, but I might not give you all the details on all of it. But, there's an eye test that I think actually just truly exists. And last year, the eye test is that the Panthers' offensive line, despite all those challenges, looked better to me than I'm accustomed to over the past few years. Now, I'm not saying that's good, right? I'm not trying to say that these guys were great or anything, but they weren't the number one weakness to me on the team. And so some people have contended that the reason that the success of the offensive line was actually schematic, and Joe Brady and the offense kind of put them in a position to succeed. And if that's the case, if he can do that for a bum offensive line, now we really get to see what this coaching staff is made of. And if they can put Sam Darnold in a position to where he has the opportunity to succeed, and that just wasn't the case in New York.
Certainly wasn't the case in New York.
All right.
Yeah.
252-228-5098.
What's up, Panther Nation? This is a first-time caller, Frito Bandito, baby. The change that stuck between your couch. I love this whole trade that we did today. This is positive for the Panthers. I'm telling you, mark my words, this is the way Teddy Bridgewater is going to be out the door for sure, because we're going to draft Mac Jones. Will Greer is going to take a back seat by washing them cleats and cleaning them damn bottles, because I'm going to tell you right now, Sam Darnold is going to be the truth. Let's give this boy a chance. I swear to God, I think the Jets messed up. They done got tough change for him, but you know what? Tampa wants to win, baby, and we want to win. Let's go, baby. Let's go big, Panthers.
Frito Bandito, welcome to the podcast, and we better hear that name because I'm going to be looking for the change in between the couch cushions from now on. Thank you. Great introduction to the C3 Panthers podcast and this group. Now the Mac Jones part, he lost me on the Mac Jones. We're going to draft Mac Jones. I don't want that. The call though begs me to ask the question: what does this mean that the team wants to do this year? Last year, and this was kind of the bizarre thing, is we tried to win a little, in Matt Rule's year. Cody, you were upset about this. We were upset about the Cam Newton departure. That's what I was most upset about. But for you, it was just not only the departure from Cam, but then this kind of sort of lateral move into the 4-5 win ethosphere that kept you out of getting what you needed to do. So I guess is Sam Darnold to the Panthers going to put us in a similar situation of next year? 8 and whatever. I'm probably going to break out again. I see the little thing popping up. But anyway, is this something saying that the Panthers are really trying to give it a go and maybe not win the division, but improve?
Hey, listen, it's possible. I mean, listen, I really don't think this team, especially after we add a whole nother draft and knowing how much talent we have and knowing that the 49ers and the Falcons are kind of in this weird state of flux as well. I think that we have the potential to be a real a dark horse team this year. And again, like to people saying that I'm just being too optimistic or I'm all of a sudden just petting Sam Darnold's head. Look, there isn't too many options the Panthers had available to them. We either should have moved up to 3 before the 49ers did it, or we had to have a contingency plan in case one of those quarterbacks didn't fall to us. So again, like there's only so much you can do from a fan's perspective. Sometimes you just have to bite down on it and go with what the organization says we're going to do. And I don't think this is the worst choice that we could have made.
All right, next call.
Yo, guys, it's Nick from up here in Mass. So,
Nick.
Sam Darnold, news broke today, okay? Not upset about it, not the happiest about it, but you know what? At the end of the day, we at least know that we have a quarterback other than Teddy Bridgewater and other than Will Grier. And as much as I hate to say it, other than P.J. Walker, because I'd really like to give P.J. or even Will Grier an actual shot so that way we can actually see what we have in those guys. I mean, we already have P.J. for another year. Will Grier, we should have him for another year or two. But, I mean, he's on his rookie contract, so we could always just cut him and be done. But I got to say this. I got to ice up somebody. Okay, I've been watching the NFL Network all week, and this dude named Zerline or Zerlen, whoever you are, ice up. Okay, all your mock drafts have the Panthers picking Mac Jones at 8 when Justin Fields is still available. Okay, you are off your rocker. A guy named DJ on the NFL Network, he ranks Mac Jones at like 32 in like the top 100, as well as a good number of his wide receivers. Those are in the top 10. A whole bunch of Alabama players made it into like the top 30, and then you have Mac Jones at 32. We have Trey Lance at like 15 or 16. So Zerline or Zerlen, ice up because there's no way in hell that is going to happen. And if it does, there's going to be a riot. Sorry, it's been bugging me. Ever since I saw it on my TV, I wanted to throw something at my TV. I'm like, are you fucking serious? Like, there is no way we are taking Mac Jones over Justin Fields. No way.
Yeah.
But with that being said, Sam Darnold, back to the Sam Darnold. Second round next year, I think like a 4th and a 6th. I mean, I'm not happy with the amount of capital it took to get him, but I'm also not upset that we got him. At least we can go into the draft knowing that we have another quarterback. Yeah. And I gotta ask, do you guys think it's at all possible if Fields or Lance are still there at 8 that we would still get him? And if so, quarterbacks would be staying. So, love the show, guys. Keep pounding.
So here is a little tidbit from a 49ers website. This is, it looks like it's an NBC hosted site. Oh, so it's NBC Sports, actually. It says this, Coach Kyle Shanahan attended Jones' second pro day at Alabama in person last week and reportedly loves the Heisman finalist. Rumors around Jones being the 49ers' ideal choice at 3 have been intensifying, but not everyone is as high on the signal caller as the 49ers front office reportedly is. Bucky Brooks, my man. I like Bucky Brooks a lot. Carolina Tar Heel came out and said the 6'3", 217-pounder doesn't display A-grade arm talent or athleticism between the lines. Jones' lack of speed, quickness, and running ability to extend plays or create big gains outside of structure. Moreover, he's confined to the pocket as a statuesque signal caller built to throw traditional drop back passes behind a fortress. So is the one thing is Mac Jones may very well be good. Is that there's nothing that just says that he's going to be exceptional or could be exceptional. And that's the point. That's where I think Bucky is right, is that, and you know what is, and that was the case for Tom Brady as well, but Tom Brady wasn't drafted in first. Is that there's a difference between a guy proving everybody wrong and it turning out to be the case and a guy who checks all the boxes, and he just doesn't check all the boxes for me. And I just didn't think the pro day, nothing looked great. The ball wasn't, when I was watching Justin Fields pro day, Ryan Day, their coach, first of all, spoke glowingly about him the whole time. He doesn't have to say any of those things. He could just be non-existent if he didn't like the kid. But he kept talking about the spin of the ball. And it just had a nice zip and kind of whistle to it. And I just didn't see that when I was watching Mac Jones, on the face of it. So,
by the way, Lance Zierlein has me blocked on Twitter from a point in time where I was just roasting his ass and his terrible fucking trades a few years ago. So, yeah, that's like a little badge of honor for me. Zierlein, dude, he's a dunce. I hate all of his mock drafts so bad. Listen, spoiler alert, Matt Jones is he's not even he's going to be my QB6. I have 5 quarterbacks ranked above Matt Jones and one that people frankly probably won't see coming. I really put in a lot of work into my top 100 players that I'm working on now. So I'm really trying to hammer it out. I like to compare and contrast my notes and see how players do in later seasons. So I'm excited to look at it. But the NFL Network did another mock draft today, and Daniel Jeremiah had Matt Jones going number 3. And he said, this is not what I would do. This is not how high I have Matt Jones evaluated, but I'm doing a mock draft based on what I hear. And Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch apparently have a love affair with Matt Jones. They really love how smart he is, and they think he's going to be able to come in and run that offense on day one. Now, apparently, as you alluded to, some of the coaching staff or the other members of the front office are higher on Trey Lance, and they're trying to sell him. I don't know. It's an iffy situation. I'm telling you right now, if I'm a betting man, I think Matt Jones goes number 3. And I think either Justin Fields or Trey Lance, we're going to be sitting there on draft night, and we're going to be like, are we going to have an opportunity to draft one of these dudes? I really think it might come down to
and
that,
you know
man.
what is that? If that happens, what's the worst that we're going to say is that we can try to move Darnold. What's the worst? Really is that, and all you got to try to do is get back a second or
I don't even
fourth.
think we would try and move. I think no matter what, especially if we traded Teddy Bridgewater, I think no matter what, if it's Justin Fields, Trey Lance, or even a Matt Jones, I think Sam Darnold is going to be the starter this year. No matter what, they're going to
that's something I did want to bring up when we were talking about what yesterday, as we did the podcast, what the future with Teddy Bridgewater and the Carolina Panthers were. And we obviously knew, there's an opportunity that he could just be on the team if we can't get anything. Right. But we've heard that they've allowed him to kind of try to seek his own trade or negotiate it. I always love that. It's like, you go figure it out for us and then we'll okay. Like, why aren't the Panthers trying to work on a trade? But interestingly, I guess, or convergently, is that the Douglas, the GM for the Jets, was asked about, well, why are you trading Darnold? I mean, like, does keeping Darnold around, prevent you from drafting a quarterback and this and that? And he said, and this is from The Athletic, he said the team toyed with an idea of keeping Darnold and pairing him with a rookie. And that was confirmed by the GM, but ultimately they decided it would have been a distraction for all parties. And this is a quote from their GM. Ultimately, that wouldn't have been the best situation for Sam, for the rookie quarterback, for Coach Robert Saleh and his staff, and the locker room. We felt like this was the best decision for the entire organization moving forward, hitting the reset button. He went on to say that Douglas has conducted conversations with a lot of teams, including the Panthers, regarding the second pick, but that he wouldn't characterize any of those discussions as meaningful. And I think since they traded Sam Darnold, they're pretty much saying, we got our guy. We feel very comfortable at 2. The number's 252-228-5098. Let's go to the next call.
Hey, you know who the fuck it is. It's G, baby. And I got a lot to fucking say since we're doing a motherfucking podcast today. I got a lot to fucking say. Cody, CK, Tony, I don't know where my man Greg's been at, but he's the only one that has some sense around this motherfucker. I'm going to start off, and this is no disrespect to you guys, but I'm going to have to get disrespectful. CK, in your motherfucker, please, if you ever, and I mean ever, compare to Cam Newton to fucking Matt Ryan again, bro, I swear to God, I'm going to mute your motherfucking ass, because that's just as dumb as fucking Tony saying he would take the Merritt Bird over motherfucking Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, let's go.
Are you motherfucking kidding me? Matt Ryan could only dream of doing what fucking Cam Newton has done in his motherfucking career. So if you ever say that ignorant shit again, I swear to God, I'm gonna mute you for the rest of the motherfucking the error of the fucking podcast. That means every single time you talk, motherfucker, you get muted until here on out. Now, Cody, on to you.
Let's go, bro.
I don't agree with you, bro. Kirk Cousins is not the same as fucking Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan can scare me sometimes. And I'm gonna tell you something. An old wise man told me one time. Once an MVP, always an MVP. You can never take that shit away from him. Ever, bro.
So now he's complimenting them?
Respect, bro. Give him respect, because Kirk Cousins, he don't have no fucking MVP. He hasn't been in no fucking Super Bowl.
True.
So I want to get
I agree with him
on the
this.
motherfucking table. Thank you.
All right.
I feel like I got up easy. Tony got up easy.
Hey, I'll address it. I wasn't sitting here making the campaign that Cam Newton wasn't as good as Matt Ryan. I'm making the comparison. If we're going to compare those two, Cam Newton doesn't have the stats that Matt Ryan does. Period. Like, reality is Matt Ryan beats him as a quarterback. Now, as far as running and being an athletic quarterback, obviously Cam Newton is far and away better.
He doesn't beat him as a quarterback.
Bro, you gotta be kidding me.
He had so much better help around him for the past how many years, bro? Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, bro.
Hey, are you using that same excuse? Are you using that same excuse for Patrick Mahomes right now?
Dude, Matt Ryan, if he were on the Carolina Panthers, he would never have been able to do what Cam Newton did.
What do you think about Patrick Mahomes? Like, do you think he would have done the same that he's done on the Kansas City? If he had done
listen, he's a great quarterback. I've said if Deshaun went to Kansas City, Deshaun would have done the same thing, man. Your supporting cast matters.
Yeah.
It matters. And that was my only point in the Cousins Matt Ryan thing.
It does, but if you're looking at it from straight up quarterbacking, Matt Ryan as a quarterback, you take away the other stuff, because I think 100% Cam Newton is by and large a better quarterback because of what he can do as an athlete, right? I think that was why he was a better quarterback in that respect, or at least a better football player in my mind. But from a strictly quarterback standpoint, which is being a quarterback, dropping back, throwing the ball, he was not as good as Matt Ryan.
There were throws that Cam Newton can make that Matt Ryan couldn't even dream of making. I'm
Yeah, but
talking about the tightest of tight window throws, bro.
Yeah, and that was 20. I mean, let's be honest. If we want to look back, how many times did Cam Newton in his first, second, and third year always make us think, I don't know if he's going to be able to do it here. He's athletic. He can get out of the tough binds, but he was very bad about throwing the ball to the other team. And that's a fact.
I don't know. I felt like Cam was fine until
but he
wasn't
wasn't elite.
Beat up.
Cam didn't have the weapons around him to be elite.
I know, but
that's what I'm saying.
But I agree. I agree. But I think the reason that this has become a conversation is you can't sit there and say that Matt Ryan isn't a good quarterback or that he isn't a better quarterback when his numbers say that he is.
And that's what Cody does all the time. Cody shits on Matt Ryan, and I hate Matt Ryan
from a physical perspective. From a physical perspective, from a mental perspective,
he's not Kirk Cousins.
From what they are capable of doing on the field. If you put Kirk Cousins on the Atlanta Falcons football team, it does
he had Thielen and Diggs. He had Thielen and Diggs, just as good. All right, next call.
Yep.
Now I'm gonna go back to getting on motherfucking CK's ass once again, boys, because you wanted to say some ignorant, stupid bullshit about culture, about losing and culture. Well, motherfucker, if we would have lost that game against Washington, all of this would have been wiped out, bruh.
You're right.
We wouldn't have to mortgage our fucking future, a second and a fucking fourth of next year's draft. We wouldn't have to jeopardize all that capital to get a fucking QB that even.
Oh, it's not that much, G-Baby.
G-Baby, you're a bit over the top tonight, brother.
You don't want to build a losing culture. Well, guess what? If we wouldn't have had so much fucking pride, because that came down to a imano thing. Them trying to be men, straight, the big bad wolf, bro. And they had so much pride, they didn't want fucking Ron Rivera to beat them, bro. That's all that was. But what they ended up doing was fucking us. They fucked us.
Bro, listen, G-Baby.
Here's the thing. Well, you know what? Here is the thing: is all of that is in the past now. Sadly.
I still think we need to address it because, when you're going to come in hot like that, you got to come in with a reason how they could have fixed it. What do you expect Matt Rule should have done in that Redskins game, G-Baby, that would have changed the outcome there? Do you think that he could have said, hey, Teddy Bridgewater and everybody that's on the offense, I know that this defense is just not able, they can barely stop Dwayne Haskins and Taylor Heineke, as it was. But you guys just stop playing football.
No, they could stop. The Panthers didn't win that game. Dwayne Haskins lost it.
The Dwayne Haskins
was so bad.
If you look at that, we did try to throw that game. It felt like we were so close to losing to Taylor Heineke there at the end. I know it wasn't super close, but he was coming back. He was making our defense look like and you could sit there and say he had a pretty good game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the playoffs. In all reality, that wasn't as close of a game as people want to try to make it out to be. That was still not that fantastic of a game. But G-Baby, you can't come in here and say we shouldn't have done something different as a coaching staff in that moment when that was one game that we won that would have changed the outcome. What could have changed? What could have been different? What would
Curtis
you have
Samuel
done?
went and got paid. Guaranteed. He got that big third down. That one sucked. And Dwayne Haskins was terrible, man. Is that we needed Alex Smith to play.
Yeah.
And you know what is that? And shame on Ron Rivera. Wasn't that the week Dwayne Haskins went to the strip club and all that? And they still played him against us.
I think so. Yeah, it was either.
They should have sat him. They should have sat him
after every Panthers loss, or someone got fired from. Or after every Panthers win, someone got fired from one of those teams. Remember after we beat Detroit, Matt Patricia got fired.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, then after we beat Washington, they cut Dwayne Haskins. Yeah, man. If you lost to the Panthers, that meant your ass. You were on the chopping block. It was time to go.
It looks like I did not get off the hook.
Tony, you be tripping me out, bro. This is G-Baby, man. You be tripping me out, dog, with some of the takes you
Bro, G-Baby got 9 calls
You
tonight.
say
This might be
that
after
you
the
would be
last one,
turned
bro.
out if you had Teddy Bridgewater. I'm not defending Teddy Bridgewater. I don't even want him on the fucking roster. I'm the biggest Teddy. Hey, everyone know I'm the biggest Teddy
Yeah,
hater.
you are. You are.
But you said you wouldn't feel comfortable with having him on the roster at the beginning of the season, but you'd feel that much comfortable having Sam fucking Darnold? Like, bro, what?
Yeah,
As
there's a
Panther
difference,
fans,
baby.
have we really gotten to that point
Yep.
where we're just okay with mediocrity at the fucking QB position? Like, are we that far out of the fucking Cam Newton era?
All right, thanks for the
Dude.
call, G baby. I think that's misconstruing the point for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that with Teddy Bridgewater on the team, I feel like I know, like I feel like there's only so much I could be. I could be excited about, or actually, it would not be the quarterback position, or even potentially winning.
Yeah.
And every time we won, it would be back to square one, where Cody's up here every week saying we got to get a quarterback, and this is just taking us the wrong direction, this and that. Right. So, like, that's the uncomfortableness with Teddy Bridgewater going into this season. But there was an equal uncomfortableness for me in having to pay so much to not have Teddy Bridgewater as our quarterback. And what I mean by that is to trade to get the guy, right? Is that the idea, the only person I was really interested in mortgaging that much was Deshaun Watson before all this came about. But even there's a little trepidation even for that when you put so much into a guy working. The thing that I'm uplifted about with Sam Darnold for me is not whether I don't know. I don't think all of a sudden the Panthers' prospects of success just got immensely better. But I am interested to see how much was of him being bad was the situation and how much of it is him. I'm also interested to see how much that this coaching staff can do with a quarterback that isn't Teddy Bridgewater, that has a physical skill set that's different. A big guy who's mobile, who can throw on the, it's got the arm talent, things like that. The last thing and the thing that is most exciting about this for me is that this gives us options in the draft.
Yeah.
And I was very scared that the Panthers were going to pick a quarterback at 8 because they had to, not because they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And now if we pick a quarterback at 8, I think it's because we want to. And if we don't, it's because it wasn't available. And so I agree with all the points, right? Is that like, hey, the Washington game is really made this an issue that could have not been an issue. But it is what it is at this point. Now it's about what can we do to get to move the needle. And I think for me, I guess what I'm also equally excited about is that the team recognized that Teddy Bridgewater is a bust.
Yeah, I agree. I think this tells you without question, again, and I mentioned it yesterday, this tells us exactly what we all knew. And the organization wouldn't say until the end of the year. Teddy Bridgewater wasn't it. And as many people that were, and listen, I get it. As a Carolina Panthers fan, we had to defend Cam Newton all day, every day, right? We had to. Everybody was saying, would tell us all the things he did wrong, and we'd have to tell him all the things he did right. It was just a constant battle, and it was very exhausting, right? And so as Teddy fans, I imagine they felt the same way. Well, look at his completion percent. I mean, they had valid arguments in certain areas, right? But at the same time, we all saw with our eyes what we had in Teddy Bridgewater. And Holger, he brought up something earlier talking about Teddy Bridgewater's stats. Holger, it is clear you'd never watched a game of the Carolina Panthers because those stats are so misleading. It's not even funny. And so that is where we're hoping that a change to a quarterback that has, if you look at his tape in college, he looked almost in the same, I'm not going to say he was at the level of Trevor Lawrence, but if he had been in this draft class, he would have been touted as one of the same top prospects that are in the league or in the draft this year. Like if you go back and you look at his tape and all the things he did, you would see that. It's period. He was a 3rd overall pick. You can't forget that, right? And so I think, it's easy to say that we're, unique to, or we're used to this middle of the pack. We're just ready to be average. But I think you've got to keep in mind there is a big upside to this. And Tony, I agree without question about we're about to see what we got in our coaching staff. And if Sam Darnold can do something, that speaks highly to Sam Darnold. That speaks highly to Joe Brady and Matt Rule because they're able to turn people around. And you see it's happened with a lot of people that's come to the team and the development that they've been able to get out of guys who shouldn't be stars.
I think
Can
one
I just
point
say
that
something
G-Baby... Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say this real quick, man. Like, to everybody, there's some people in the chat room and people just online in general that are not happy about Sam Darnold. And look, no one, I mean, absolutely no one would have said that Ryan Tannehill that you saw with the Miami Dolphins would go on to be a really competent playoff quarterback that looks good. Dude, Ryan Tannehill would be good in this offense if he had him. He might not be the sexiest name, but he would be able to throw the ball farther than Teddy Bridgewater, more accurately than Bridgewater. And like, that's what I'm saying. Like, listen, we don't have a lot of good film from Sam Darnold, and we know that. But that's literally in the NFL. But the entire point is that now he has the opportunity to do so. The Panthers have a legitimate receiving core. The Panthers are going to rebuild this offensive line in this year's draft, and we've already done a little bit in free agency.
If he doesn't have confidence coming into this year, I don't know. Like, I really don't know. He is a bust. If this year, if he comes in, obviously he's got to have some learning curves. But if he plays as bad as he did last year, it's a bust. It was a bad move, period. Right?
I don't think there's any way, I don't think there's a possibility that he could be as bad as he was in New York.
Yeah,
now, I'm not saying he's going to be as good as I think that's the floor.
Yeah.
Right? If we saw the ceiling with Teddy, we saw the floor with Darnold. Yeah. And this team is just a completely different bag, and the pressure isn't there. I mean, maybe there is pressure, but for him, it's got to be a relief. And you see the party they threw. Like, I mean, like he's happy, like, to get out of a toxic situation. Last point on G Baby, and then we'll move on to the next call. Is I do understand one thing that he's got one thing going on, and what he is fretting with is life without a quarterback.
Yeah,
that's what he's dealing with, and that's what we've been dealing with. And I told people, go check the tape. It's for all the people that complained about Cam and this and how we need to find a new answer, and Cam ain't it. Having a guy at quarterback that you believe can get it done, whether he's hurt or this or that, is so much more. It's just such a relief in comparison to living in this land of non-quarterbacks, right? I mean, just go and look around the league for teams who have been searching for decades and decades for their quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, to where it's a joke is that, like, look at the Bears, look at the Browns, look at the Bengals, look at all of these. It's just a long list of revolving doors of it don't matter what you put around them until we get a guy, we don't got the guy. And so it is. We were very blessed in having Cam Newton. And I really was appreciative of it. And that's why he does mean so much. And that's why also G Baby is still in his feelings so much.
Yo, it's your boy, Sports Freak 28, aka Juan Con. I can't say I think this move with Sam Darnold, the Carolina Panthers, is absolutely a smart move. This is why I think.
Hey, Tony, can you hear me?
Yeah, my Justin, that might throw me.
Tony.
But his why I think the move.
It's impossible. Can you hear that?
Your team, not really known for good passers.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're saying.
Tony!
Good Lord. Oh, what a circus. Wave your hands in there. So, chat, what's up with you? Evangelista, I would love to come to Houston, bro. I've been trying to go to Houston for a long time. I got some friends there. Yeah, chat, what's up with you?
Yeah, chat, how's it going?
Yeah.
100%.
Tony.
Work out with Bobby Anderson if they were making New York.
Tony.
No
one can hear the call, man.
What do you mean no one can hear it?
It's so low, no one can hear anything.
Is it different than the other ones?
I don't know if it's just him, but it's too low to hear anything.
All right, sorry. Yeah, my bad. I was plugging up my computer.
We're trying to wave at you. Like, hey.
I didn't even hear who that was, but thank you for calling.
My take on,
He's called before.
what I'm
He's a
sure
really
everybody's
nice
going to
guy.
be talking about this week. The trade that stopped the world. Yeah, we would.
Can you hear it now?
I don't love it.
It was just his phone, I think.
Either. It's just it's really interesting. It's not a move that you typically see the Panthers make. So I just feel like we're being aggressive, which we're usually not. So fuck it. Like, we know Teddy's not the guy. And now we're seeing reports that are looking to restructure his contract or move him if we can't get him moved, to at least restructure his contract or something like that. Which it's whatever.
Teddy ain't
now
restructuring.
that we got Sam Darnold, we got Joe Brady. Two guys who everybody keeps telling us how good they are, but do we really know for real? So this is going to be really a make it or break a year for Sam Darnold. Everybody's talking about how much potential he has. And yeah, sure, it's coaching, doesn't have the weapons, regardless. But you see a lot of the decisions this guy makes, it just doesn't scream, franchise quarterback to me. Like, I remember literally watching his first game, and I kind of have this internal bias against USC quarterbacks too. So in my head, I was like, this guy's hyped up, man. Like, he's not that guy. Da 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 da. First ever pass in the NFL was a pick six. So I was laughing my ass off, and now he's QB1 for my Panthers. So I guess the joke's on me. But honestly, this year it's really like, if you see Sam Darnold, if he looks competent, he balls out, does whatever, Sam's have a good season. Joe Brady's 100% gone. He's 100% going to be a head coach next year. But if you see Sam Darnold kind of stink up the place, kind of be what he's been, it's still going to be up in the air. Like, is Joe Brady that guy? Is he the quarterback guru? Is he the whisperer? So I feel like this is going to be a lot more a make it or break a year. Not really make it break a year, but kind of like a show me type year for Joe Brady, as much as it's going to be for Sam Darnold. So if anything, man, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be way more interesting or intriguing than it would be if we were coming in with Teddy as a quarterback this year. So, fuck it. Let's just hope for the best. Keep pounding and all that shit. But damn,
see, that's a good call. That's my point. That's my point with all of this.
That's a great call.
The worst that's going to happen is it's going to be what we had last year.
Yeah, and I think that kind of ties into this comment that I noticed from Tim Estes. He's always in the chat room. Shout out, Tim. He says it's a huge gamble. Don't get me wrong. I'm pulling for Sam because he's in the black and blue, but I don't see it. And you know what? I don't mind that anyone having that opinion, because one, we're talking about a restoration project, and we know that that's the case. We know that he has a ton to prove, but just like it was with Teddy Bridgewater, listen, we had a lot of bad shit to say very early on about Teddy Bridgewater and the kind of player that he is, but damn it, we wanted to be proven wrong. We wanted Teddy Bridgewater to shut us up so that way the Panthers can be good and win. And that's what we're saying. Give Sam at least a chance to prove it. Because what I'm saying is Sam Darnold has a much higher ceiling than Teddy Bridgewater has ever had. Listen, go back and watch Teddy Bridgewater's pro day. The guy was putting on gloves, taking off gloves. Like, he had one of the worst pro days of all time. Okay, he's never been a high-end talent. At least you know that with Sam Darnold, you have the potential to build around a player that does have the traits that you want from the position. So you don't have to love it. You don't have to believe in it. Just give him a chance.
There's one difference. There's one other difference, too, is between a guy who has the ability, who hasn't done, like, the capability. He has the capability and the ability, but hasn't done it yet, versus someone like Teddy, who, yes, he can only be so bad, but he can only be so good. And the thing I think with Darnold for me is that he's played basically 3 seasons, one of those seasons on a team that was trying to lose intentionally at every turn. It seemed like just dysfunction. I guess the idea is can people get better, right? Can a player improve? And at this age, I think I'm not ready to say his career is over yet. For Teddy, where can Teddy get better? And it's kind of like you can't teach speed, right? And so Teddy's problem isn't turnovers. Teddy's problem isn't calling the offense and running it. Teddy's problem is just a lack of physical arm talent and the gusto and the bravado to throw the ball down the field. So you can't teach him to be stronger, but maybe you can coach up this kid to be less foolish with the football. All right, let's keep plowing through these goals.
Hallelujah. Finally solved our quarterback issue. By the way, it's Joey.
What's up, Joey?
Man, what a day. I come back from almost, Cody, you might know how far this is. Basically, Charlotte to Myrtle Beach to try out some tandem tricycles, to be able to ride on. Because, blind people riding bikes by themselves is like you trying to walk across stage, Cody. But anyway, so we do that. We
What, that I just don't do
really
it?
Excited. We get home and I finally get laying on my bed, brought out my big fat ass. And then I hear on YouTube, Sam Darnold traded to the Carolina Panthers. And really, yeah, I thought it would have been cool as hell to have Deshaun Watson. And yeah, I thought it would have been cool as hell to have all these other shiny new picks. But Sam Darnold is basically a rookie because he hasn't been playing on an NFL team for the last, for the first I don't know how many years of his career. So he goes from Adam Gase, that idiot that somehow even the Jets said he's worth a shot. Whatever no-namers they had that, probably, well, no, they'd been on one NFL team, the Patriots, because Belichick likes those kind of jackasses. But anyway, he had all those kind of players, nobodies. I can't even name anybody on the Jets. That's how much of the nobodies he had. But he goes from that to having Matt Rule, Joe Brady, quarterback from the offense, by the way. He goes to have having Joe Brady, Matt Rule, CMC, really good wide receivers, a decent offensive line that can hold its own, and he's got a shot. I'm really happy. Anyway, guys. Wow.
I like that. I like that a lot. As Joey gets more confident, he holds that pause a little bit longer before he lets that growl go. I'm into it. Shout out to my fellow handicap, Joey the Blind Panther Esquivel. Yeah, listen, because of the newness of this whole thing, I was checking the sports media talk shows today just to kind of, get a lay of the land, to see what people were saying. And I'll be damned if Colin Cowherd, of all people, didn't make a good example in his little open dialogue this morning. He said, how many other times in life is a person judged off of how good they were at the first job they ever had? Like, what was the first job that you've ever had in your life? Did you want to stay there that long? Did you love what you did at your first job? Were you the greatest at the first job you've ever had? No, probably not. And it doesn't define you either.
That's what I agree, man. And this is kind of the point I was making yesterday is we have such a instant gratification kind of mindset when it comes to a lot of things in life. But I really feel like this has infiltrated football so much. And maybe it's a result of fantasy football as well. But yeah, my father-in-law has always said this. It takes you 5 years to get good at your job. Like, and that's if you're talented at it. And not to say that what your work that you've done in the previous 5 years isn't good work. That's not the point either, right? But for where you feel like where you're at your A game, and there is so much pressure put on these young players. They come out earlier and earlier at a younger and younger age with less preparation, less time, less practice, and into almost impossible situations. And the Jets have been such an impossible situation. I like Todd Bowles. I did like him. It was just the Adam Gase. Everybody knew that was a disaster from the beginning, right? So it really is hard to judge. It's just hard to condemn him entirely at this point and to write him off. But I do think it's fair for fans to be, reluctant to just being like, this is going to fix it, right? And I understand that point as well. And I think the good news is this, and I continue to say this, is there's a big difference between Sam Darnold and Teddy Bridgewater, and it's a way of acquiring them that was the difference. 3-year deal, financially committed to Teddy Bridgewater. And I saw somebody writing this. Who was it that wrote this? And I would 100% disagreed with them. And they were talking about how Sam Darnold isn't a long-term solution. He's a lotto ticket. I agree with that kind of part. It's like if it works, it works. If it doesn't, no big deal. You weren't counting on it for your income. But he, in this article, and I think it was on Cat Scratch Reader or somewhere like this, maybe it was Cat Crave, that said that Teddy Bridgewater was like, they went into it thinking that they could be done with him after a year. And they were done with him after a year, but not financially in a position to be done with it. They're taking a big, giant hit financially because of a miscalculation with Teddy Bridgewater. This does not run the same financial risk, but it does run the same risk of success, I think. All right, let's keep going through with these calls and powering through. I'm doing it as fast as I can for my man, Cody.
Hey, guys, this is Tyler from Spruce Pine. So there may not be too many calls about it since the news broke on a Monday, but I'm calling it Monday night about the Sam Darnold trade. Initially, I was a little pissed off at it because I, like probably everybody else, was kind of hoping that we would trade into that number 2 spot and grab Zach Wilson, or, by a miracle, some quarterback would fall to us. But we can't count on miracles. And I think also you've got to look at Scott Fitter is a brand new GM. I don't know if he's going to want to trade 3 future first-round picks. In reality, it would be 2 first-round picks. But at the same time, you're giving up your first-round pick for the next 2 years. And as a new GM, I don't know that he was wanting to do that. Or pay the price, I guess you could say, to move up to number 2. But I think in the situation that we were in, this was the best move that we could have made. Sam Darnold's only 23 years old. He's got upside. He's got talent. How much talent, I don't know, but I guess it's enough to be drafted at number 3 overall, I think is what he was. And I look at it this way. Anything is better than Teddy Shitwater, so I'm not mad about it. I'm just glad that we're not going to be watching next year Teddy Shitwater as our quarterback, because I don't know if I could have handled the whole season with it. I really don't. Not only that, but I saw an article posted, I think it was on The Athletic, that said Fitter told Bridgewater that he would either be traded or they would bring him back on a reduced contract, which means, screw it, we'll cut him and we'll take the dead cap hit. So it's not even a quarterback competition. Sam Darnold has the job. And I know he's got some injury history. And I think best case scenario, he plays really well and balls out kind of like Tannehill did when he went to Tennessee. But worst case scenario, we're average. And an even better scenario, he sucks, gets hurt, we play Will Greer for the rest of the year and end up with the number 1 pick. So we have options, I guess. I hope he pans out and does well. And the fact is that he was just on a shit team, and it comes to fruition. So hopefully he plays well with us.
Yeah, I think, again, back to a lot of points we've been making with the options, very important for us, is that it really opens the draft up for us beyond having to pick a quarterback or just also punting on the year entirely. One other thing that kind of sticks out to me was, for all the people that continue to talk shit to us, we have taken a lot of flack, Cody, about the Teddy Bridgewater hate for a long, is that we're just haters, never gave him a chance.
We saw it early enough to where we were criticizing him before there was a lot of people jumping on that bandwagon. Right. We saw it early enough to where people were like, I'm not going to name any other Panthers content creators on YouTube, but people were out there putting 5 on his ability that he's going to be the guy. He is our quarterback. I got 5 on it. There are a lot of people that were giving us criticism because we were very critical of him because of 2 reasons, right? Number one, he didn't look great. Like he wasn't like going out there and throwing 7 interceptions and losing us the game, but he also wasn't winning the games when he had the game in his hand. So that was one. The second is, you guys got to keep in mind, we signed him to a 3-year deal, cut a very cheap Cam Newton in the offseason, and to do this, knowing that there was a risk involved with Teddy Bridgewater, right? Teddy Bridgewater, in the second year, he is due so much money this year. We now know, and we can all sit here and say hindsight's 2020. We knew early enough in the offseason that Teddy Bridgewater was not going to be a significant upgrade over Cam Newton. I have been, quoted on here of saying, I think that Cam Newton is on the back end of his career, and I don't know that he's going to get back to 2015 quality. He would have still been better than Teddy Bridgewater this past year. And that is zero question about it in my mind.
Yeah.
Somebody said, didn't we play Will last year? I don't think we played Will last year. I think it was the year before.
PJ Walker is the only one that didn't, that other than Teddy Bridgewater. That
I do want to just go back, and again, like, I'm not trying. There is a civil war amongst Panther podcasters and stuff. There's a couple of people that just seemingly always fall on the opposite position I have. I don't even know why. Like, it feels like it's intentional at some point. But the idea is this: is that, like, stop telling. One of them, remember, he's dropping the N-word, the disrespect, and all these, and the disrespect to Teddy Bridgewater, and get his name out. All of this. Well, you know who's disrespecting him more than fucking anybody is the Carolina Panthers, not us. Like, they just cut. If Sam Darnold is such shit, they just told Teddy Bridgewater they would rather eat this shit than deal with your shit.
Bro, he said Teddy would have dove on that fumble in the Super Bowl.
Oh, God.
Crazy. Hey, real quick, I wanted to highlight this this comment, if I can find it here again, because I think that it was a really it was a good comment to highlight, and of course now I can't find it. But shout out to Richard's Outdoor World. He brought up Jim Plunkett. And, dude, I'm no football historian, man, so I don't even know who Jim Plunkett is. So I just looked it up, and a part of his Wikipedia is he achieved his greatest professional success during his final 8th season with the Raiders franchise, whom he helped win 2 Super Bowl titles. And shout out to Richard's Outdoor World for bringing that up, man. It's not like this hasn't happened before. Brett Favre, nobody remembers what Brett Favre did for the Atlanta Falcons. Nobody remembers what Drew Brees did for the New Orleans Saints.
Or the Chargers.
Yeah, right, for the Chargers, mind you. I mean, this has happened.
He went 11-5.
Nobody is going to ultimately remember anything that Ryan Tannehill did with the Dolphins, okay? It is possible for a player to rejuvenate their career. Let me tell you this, man. If any of the quarterbacks in this year's draft, yes, I include Trevor Lawrence as a Clemson fan, if any of these players go to the wrong spot, they could easily be with a football team that wouldn't put enough talent around him and could get him absolutely killed. So again, so
I
much
mean,
of
also think
Sam-
about what if Zach Wilson went to the Jets and Adam Gase was still the quarterback, coach.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, it was. I
for
mean, the
sure.
only reason that we don't think that the Jets are dysfunctional anymore is because they got Salah, they've moved on, and they're trying to shed their evil ways. In the past, it seems like, but there's been nothing that suggests that they're not dysfunctional anymore, right? The only reason we think Jacksonville isn't a disaster right now is because they've accumulated so many draft picks and money, and now they got Urban Meyer and this and that. But there are teams that we. Like, is anybody starting to think like that all of a sudden the Detroit Lions are going to be good this year? No.
No.
And you put a top quarterback there, and you're right. It's got to be a marriage of talent and situation a lot of times.
Yeah.
Talent, situation, opportunity, and seizing the moment and capitalizing and achieving on that talent. Talent only takes you somewhere. The difference between some of these guys is maybe, to be honest, is Tom Brady doesn't have the talent that some of these other guys is, but he's capitalized on his moments. Drew Brees maybe didn't have the talent that some of these other guys, undersized, different things. Russell Wilson, right? Some people got the gamer gene. And so, it's a lot of different factors, and that's what there is intrigue. One of the callers said it earlier. There's going to be some intrigue here going forward to see what happens.
And he also said Jim Plunkett was a top draft pick also, and had no success with his first team in New England. So it's not unprecedented.
All right, next call.
I don't have to watch Teddy fucking Bridgewater play one more goddamn snap for the Panthers. One more fucking drive, you would have snapped DJ Moore's ACL in half. I am just glad to have that man out of here. I don't care about your feelings on Sam Darnold. You at least have to appreciate that we're not going to see fucking Teddy Bridgewater, which is what we might have seen under fucking Marty Hardy. I wouldn't be surprised. But listen, I like Sam Darnold. A lot of people are probably going to be upset by this. I like the move. I think he's got a great arm. I mean, what are your other options? You could get Mac Jones. Fuck that. You could you could trade up and give up a bunch of stuff for an unproven guy. And if we could even trade up, I don't even think the 49ers, the Jets, the Jags, the Falcons, I don't think we're going to get any of those picks. So I don't think we're going to get any quarterback in the draft. God knows I don't want to roll with Teddy Bridgewater. And as much as I love PJ Walker, I mean, I was the first one calling in here. I love the guy. I fucking hope he does great things. But Sam Darnold's the better quarterback. And what? We really gave up a second round pick and some garbage and plus some garbage shit. I mean, I love the move. I'm excited. Robbie Anderson, Joe Brady, we're going to get fucking Panay Sewell. We're finally going to have a left tackle. And even if it doesn't work out, he's got 2 years on a rookie deal. We can just get rid of him. And, I'm excited. I don't know. I don't know. There's probably going to be some pessimism out there. I'm excited for Sam Darnold. I really think we could do something special. And I think he has enough potential to really do something here in Carolina. All right, boys. Love the podcast.
While Tony pulls up the next call, I have a question for you, Cody. I know you haven't done a lot of deep dive. What do you feel like is the upside first? What is the ceiling for Sam Darnold? Like, what would you is there a fair comparison for any quarterback, past or present, that you can say this is what we hope he can be?
Kirk fucking Cousins.
No. You know what's funny? I actually, and it's not just because of the Adam Gase thing, I might even say a guy like Ryan Tannehill. I think they're about the same height. They're shifty. You're not necessarily going to run a lot of quarterback power with them. But if you build the offensive line around them and set your offense up to take some well-timed deep shots, dude, Sam Darnold can do that. And I think Tannehill could do that as well. So
do you think that's the upside? Like, is that what we hope he is? Or do we hope he is, like, is that the ceiling for him? Is that the best you think he is going to be?
I sure hope not, because I am not.
I think Tannehill is still a middle of the pack quarterback. I don't think he's
thrilled as
great.
you are.
I think he's better than obviously Teddy Bridgewater, but I don't think he's on the back half of the quarterbacks, but I don't think he is, far from the middle. Like I think he's very close to being middle of the pack quarterback. So I don't want a middle of the pack quarterback because a middle of the pack quarterback, if you don't have every piece, like the Titans have had pretty much every piece every year since Tannehill's been there, and they've been able to succeed.
Isn't it a hard question in some ways? Is that we really need to see him on a different team.
Yeah.
We just need to see him on a different team. If he goes, and this will be very interesting too, is that if he comes out there and looks composed, is running the offense effectively, as in the play calling, it seems like everything's going right. Yes, there's some mistakes, but it doesn't look like they're completely off page or whatever. I got to wonder those were all the things everybody told me was awesome about Teddy Bridgewater. Right. Yeah. It was like, oh, well, he runs the offense, a brand new offense. It's a very complicated offense. He knows all this shit. He's like no, is that like, I just want to know how much is that where we just continued to say that, and how much of it was just him doing what he was kind of supposed to do, how much latitude. We'll see. It'll be an interesting thing. We will get to see a big juxtaposition between Darnold in New York and in Carolina, right? So we'll be able to learn a lot about him, but we'll also be able to learn about what was Teddy Bridgewater's strengths and limitations, as well as this coaching staff's strengths and limitations. And I'll be very interested, Cody, to see what looks different about the offense.
Yeah,
is that we talked 100%. About this. Is I continued to say, you kept telling me how great Joe Brady was in LSU and this and that. And I was like, he's got to prove it here. He did put together a competent enough season for me in his first year at his first job, where I was I was very happy with it. But at the same time, there wasn't anything very special to me about it it was just a lot of dink and dunk. They used the pass game like a run game. And a lot of that felt like it was also, and you kept telling us, he's not using a tight end because he doesn't know how to use one. He's not using one because he doesn't got one. He's not throwing the ball downfield because he doesn't want to take shots. It's because he's not able to do it.
Yeah. Right. And I said on Twitter today, I think that you are going to see the full dearth of Joe Brady's offensive playbook this year, because everyone wanted to blame Joe Brady. Oh, what's with this offense? And I always said it was on Teddy Bridgewater. There were plays that were schemed open that Teddy just missed, or even worse, flat out refused to throw. And it was unacceptable. So I don't think Sam's going to have that problem. And I also think one of the things that you're going to see a lot more is you're going to see the Panthers move Sam Darnold out of the pocket, because that's something they did a lot with Joe Burrow at LSU. And so, by the way, CK, you asked me who I would compare Sam Darnold to. My first initial reaction from a physical standpoint was Joe Burrow. From a physical perspective, Joe Burrow doesn't have a cannon for an arm. He has a good arm. He trusts his arm. He can make the throws, but he doesn't have an absolute bazooka like Josh Allen or Justin Herbert. I think that once you put Sam Darnold in an offense that's able to scheme their receivers open with guys that get separation downfield, I genuinely do think you're going to see Sam Darnold take a Joe Burrow-like jump. At least I think
Don't you think he's more mobile?
To do so.
Don't you think he's more mobile than Joe Burrow?
I mean, they're both about the same. They're both mobile. They can both take off and burn you.
Really? Joe Burrow can? I thought he was more of a standard pocket guy.
No, even last year with the Bengals, he ran in for some touchdowns.
All right, I'm going to play the next call. I want you to think about this as we're listening to a call. You got to listen to the call and think about what they're saying. When did things officially sour with Teddy Bridgewater and the Carolina Panthers? I have an idea, I think, of the exact moment that they did.
Yeah.
All right, next call.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Chase Ebert from High Point, North Carolina.
What's up, Chase?
I'm a long-time listener for the last couple of years, and it's my first time calling in. Just never find the time to, but just want to talk about everything going on. I'm actually personally really pumped about the Sam Darnold thing and the trade. I think it was a steal, especially if it ends up working out and he's our quarterback. He's only 23. He's younger than Joe Burrow, and he's the same age as Mac Jones. And I just think it's, long story short, it gives us options. And, our coaching staff is known for turning around young talent and getting the potential out of them. But, that's besides the point. My question is, sitting at 8, obviously where tackle and corner are our number one needs, and knowing how loaded both positions are in this draft class, would it be, say, whether you like Sewell or Slater better or Surtain or J.C. Horn better, would it be better for us taking the number one tackle at 8 and then getting a corner in the second, or would it be better getting our number one corner at 8 and getting a tackle in the second? I think there's a bigger gap between the first round corners and the second round corners than there is the first round tackles and the second round tackles. I'm sorry if that all sounds confusing, but personally, I think if Sewell and Surtain are sitting on the board at 8, you got to go Sewell. But I wouldn't be upset if we went Surtain at 8 to get our number one lockdown corner to pair with Dante, and then in the second, get one of those second round guys at tackle. Because I think it'd be easier to mold a tackle than it would a number one lockdown corner. Maybe I'm wrong, but let me know what you guys think. Love the podcast. Keep it up.
It's on you, Cody. Oh, he's actually a mid-message.
My mic was muted. My bad. Listen, I even had this thought today, right? Penei Sewell, I love the dude. I've watched a bunch of interviews with him, seen some stuff about his background. He is a physical freak, dude. The Panthers are a better football team with Penei Sewell on it. There is no doubt in my mind. But I did think about this today, man. Okay, you're the Chargers, right? They just drafted Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert and Penei Sewell played together. The Chargers are also looking for a bookend left tackle. I wonder, man, if Penei Sewell fell down to number 8, if the Chargers would be willing to give us maybe a first-round pick next year and a fourth-round pick next year to recoup that fourth, for them to move up for Penei Sewell. Maybe the Panthers slide back to 13, pick up J.C. Horn, cornerback out of South Carolina. Maybe Patrick Surtain falls that far. And then maybe in the second round, you could go for a guy like Alex Leatherwood or Liam Eichenberg or Samuel Cosme. That there are options that we have available to us. So especially if it's for the right price, and if we're not moving too far down, I would love to trade back, even if it's just a few spaces to pick up another blue chip player. I think that would be awesome.
I have some reservations about picking a corner so high, and not that, like, for me, it's just so, there's been so many that everybody tells me is going to be freaking awesome. And it's similar to quarterbacks. Like, if you went back and looked at the cornerbacks drafted in the top 10 over the last decade or whatever, I wonder how many of them turned out to be really good. Patrick Peterson was awesome and he was great. I'm trying to think if some of these other guys were the top 10 picks. And I just feel like there's so much pressure put on a corner as a rookie. It's a hard position to learn, I think. There's so many factors. You're going up against guys like Julio and this and that, and you're going against their best player all the time. You're trying to learn the game. So it's easy for me to be disappointed in that. I just want to build an offensive line. I feel like our defense is going to be able to get pressure enough that our corners will be able to be okay. But I do is that either way, we're going to add a blue chipper, and either tackle or corner is something that we've had such a big need for a quality player we just haven't invested in, right? So that's what excited. I asked you guys, when do you think the moment about Teddy Bridgewater and the team soured entirely? I still think it goes back to that game. Do you remember in the post game where he was like, well, the play didn't get called in right?
And then I think that was the one where he fumbled the ball on the 4th on the goal line in that game. He also missed Teddy at the end. It might have been the Vikings game. I don't know if it was the Viking game, but it was that one where he called out the play calling, and he took zero.
It was late. Yeah, it was late getting in. He
took zero responsibility. And then the next day he trotted out there. He got an earful from the coaches. I think it was at that moment Matt Rule and all of them said, "We've defended your ass. We made a mistake. Now we're no longer defending you." All right, let's keep.
Well, wait, are you asking us when our moment was?
Yeah.
So, CK, when did you think the moment was?
That's the best answer I could give would be that. If I were going to be trying to give you a different answer, it would be after the third game of the ball being in his hand and him not able to pull through and get the game winning drive completed.
Yeah.
Ooh, I got another one.
I think the honest answer is that it's a combination of a bunch of different moments. But if I'm just being honest, like the first thing that pops out in my mind is that play where he damn near snapped DJ Moore's ACL in half.
That's the same one. And then he blamed it on everything afterwards. He took zero
responsibility. Zero. And then in one of those post-game press conferences, he was acting like, yeah, I didn't do anything to lose the job. I'm entitled to be the starter. Like, the job was just his. Like there's nothing that could happen to him in that job. And the fact that he would put it on the play call, not coming in, him checking out of the throw to go into a run, dude, just nonsense, man.
There was one other moment. Do you remember? And it was a game winner. It was a game winning opportunity where Joey Sly actually missed the kick. And somehow we were able to move from the 20, and it was going to be a 63-yarder or whatever. And he was just throwing it over the middle the whole time, these short passes.
Yeah.
And in the press conference, Matt Rule says, "That's not the kind of football I want to play." I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
all right, let's keep going."
What's up, guys? It's Chase Ebert from High Point again calling.
Hey, what's up?
I think my biggest thing is I'm not saying we're going to suck this year because I'm an optimistic fan, and I think Sam Darnold's going to be awesome. I think he's equivalent to drafting one of these rookies, honestly. I mean, he basically spent 6 years in college, and then we just drafted him at 23 years old. But
he'll be back.
And boring off season and suck ass, or would you rather have an eventful and exciting off season and suck ass? Pick your poison.
Yeah, it's basically saying, hey, if we might end up sucking ass anyway, at least we've had an off season where the Panthers have been in the talks. We've been in the Deshaun Watson trade now, or in talks about it. Now we actually traded for Sam Darnold. Yeah, the Panthers have really been spoken in this free agency period more than I can ever remember the Panthers ever being talked about, to be frank.
All right, here we go.
What up, Panther Nation? It's Jason from Colorado. I'm so excited to be calling, to be talking to everybody. I'm filled with hope and joy that is the prospect of the draft and this next season. After just checking that final box, I mean, I'm happy to be seeing Teddy Bridgewater go. The most important thing that I need to talk about is in regards to our new quarterback, Sam Darnold, who is the descendant of the legendary American athlete, Dick Hammer. So we have the spawn of Dick Hammer as our quarterback, and I think that should make some excellent T-shirts. But anyway, I do think that Teddy can be traded. I think that Teddy... I think that people know that he's good enough to be a backup. I think he's proven that he's good enough to be a backup. And I think that's what our greatest criticism has always been. I don't know if his psyche can handle that reality, he seems to think that he's a starting quarterback. Will he be, able to give an organization 100% if he's in a backup role? I don't know, but that's for somebody else to decide. But basically, because of the guaranteed money that we have a serviceable backup quarterback who's already getting paid a buttload of money. So I could see a team, being willing to trade a pick for him in that they don't really have to pay him very much. They might be able to even get away with paying him the league minimum because he's already getting paid $20 million from the Panthers. So I could see a team rolling the dice on that, especially maybe, San Francisco called about him earlier. They may not, they've already traded away a bunch of draft picks, but if we could get a third for Teddy, holy crap, that'd be amazing. For a fourth round, even I'd take a fifth round.
Not happening.
Kind of
Not happening.
To take. I don't like TK's idea of giving up a pick to offload a contract like the Rams did with Goff, but it could happen.
I think that's the only way that it's going to happen, unfortunately.
I wonder what you guys think about Adam Gase. Like, do you think that he's completely incompetent, or is he like the Grim Reaper of football teams? Like, do teams bring him in when they know that they're going to have a rough season so that he can, behind a mask of incompetence, give a team no opportunity to succeed in order to accumulate draft picks, trade out the players that you have, and successfully tank an organization? Because I look at Miami, they're already on an upswing. And they're set up for the next couple of years with draft picks. The Jets are stacked with draft picks.
All right. Well, that's a wonderful segue. Thanks, Jason from Colorado, for your call. Followed up the conversation. The last part was about, I guess, the disaster that is Adam Gase and how much of that is a factor in Sam Darnold and just destroying teams. And we've got a wonderful resource to help us be informed in that. Scott Mason, Play Like a Jet podcast. How'd you guys do in your Final Four of Jets podcasts? I saw a lot of Panther fans giving you guys some love.
Thank you for that, Tony. Yeah, we lost in the finals. In fairness, we lost to one of the Jet podcasts is co-hosted by Connor Rogers, who does a lot of draft stuff. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of the votes were people that are draft fans that have never listened to these shows. So I knew there was no way that we could win that one. But we ended up coming in second, and I appreciate all the Panthers fans who helped us out in the voting.
That's a big accomplishment, though, and you guys have been pounding the pavement. You said 3 years straight daily?
Yeah, I don't know how I do it. 7 days a week, haven't missed a show.
That's awesome. Also, congrats. One other thing I heard, your read for mybookie.ag from overtime is the one they use for the whole network. Did you know that?
Is that right?
Yeah. I was like, hey, that's Scott. I was like, damn, that's Scott reading that. All right. We traded you guys a sixth this year, a second and a fourth for Sam Darnold, who was on the outs. It was the writing was on the wall that he wasn't going to be with the Jets anymore. We have quibbled and debated about the cost of this among Panther fans. Some Panther fans are low on it, but a lot of us are optimistic about a new page, a new leaf, a new opportunity for him. And really, the excitement for us is that it just alleviates some pressure for us in the draft, is because there was so much pressure on us to get a quarterback in the draft. And this, if we get one, so be it. If we don't, we can kind of punt the situation with still believing there's some opportunity going forward with a young player with a chip on his shoulder, trying to make a new name for himself. So tell us, what do we get with Sam Darnold? I know that you did not want to bring him back, and I think that's part just because the situation was untenable for me. That's what I'm thinking. But tell us, what are we getting in Sam Darnold? How bad is he, and can he be good?
So, here's what I'll say. The good is that Sam Darnold has tremendous ability. He can make incredible throws on the run, off platform, and you've seen the best of him in spurts during plays, the occasional game. The problem is he's incredibly erratic, and a lot of the weaknesses that he had coming in the league either never got fixed or got worse. His footwork is terrible, and I don't just mean when the play breaks down. I mean, in a clean pocket, his footwork is terrible. Intermediate passing, he needs a lot of work. His deep ball is erratic. So there's some stuff to like there, but I think what it really comes down to is when you watched his tape in 2020 specifically, there were a ton of times where you would see open receivers, and I mean like legit open, and there'd be maybe more than one. There could be 2 or 3 open receivers. I remember there was one play we were looking at. My friend Michael Manning had charted every single play that Darnold did because he's a maniac. And there was one play specifically that I remember where if you freeze frame it, he had 3 open receivers, and instead of throwing to one of them, he ended up getting sacked behind the line of scrimmage. So there was a lot of that. And the problem is, like, you don't know how much of this falls on Gase, how much of this falls on the organization for not surrounding him with talent, and how much of this falls on Darnold himself. Because the other thing is, while he spent 3 years being a well below average quarterback, the question, of course, becomes, can he be turned into a lot more than that? We've never really seen a guy go from as bad as he's been to what everybody expected him to be. People cite Ryan Tannehill, but Tannehill was more of a, let's say, 15th to 18th best quarterback. Like, he was like sort of middle of the pack type of guy and took a step up. Darnold would have to go from being one of the worst in the league to being one of the best in the league for him to live up to expectations. I think it's possible that maybe, I think when he was coming in the league, what I said was his downside could be a more athletic, more mobile Vinny Testaverde, and that might be where he's headed, which isn't the worst thing in the world. I mean, Vinny wasn't a terrible quarterback. He just was, a bit of a journeyman, and he can make some incredible plays. But then, of course, there'd be times where you'd be like, what was he looking at? What was he throwing? So I think what this comes down to is, from what I understand, Matt Rule loved Darnold, and he was a big part of the reason why Rule almost took the job here in 2019 before they ended up saddling Darnold with Gase. The irony of it is they didn't hire Rule, or talks broke down because Rule wanted his own guy as offensive coordinator, and the organization wasn't comfortable with who Rule had picked, which is, I think he was a quarterback's coach somewhere at the time, and they wanted a more established offensive coordinator. They ended up hiring Gase as the head coach, and we saw what happened. So the question is, how much of this is Darnold? How much of this is the other guys? And can it be fixed? And like I said, especially this year, he just looked completely lost out there. I mean, just horrible. Couldn't see receivers, didn't throw to wide open receivers, took too many sacks, terrible turnovers. I mean, the first 2 years, you at least saw pockets of what you thought he could be. This year, other than that one Braxton Berrios throw that they keep showing over and over again, it was few and far between. So I think what this comes down to is Rule clearly still believes in him, and obviously Joe Brady must also. And what I've been saying, and I know Damian Woody said this as well, if Joe Brady can take Darnold and get him anywhere near where he was expected to be when the Jets drafted him, he's going to be a head coach in 2022, and the Panthers will look like geniuses because they got a 24-year-old quarterback who ended up becoming, even if Darnold becomes a solid to good starter for what they gave up, not bad. So that's really what it comes down to for me. Can you take a guy who was this bad, take the tools that you know that he has, and fix him, or is he too far gone now? Is he too shell-shocked from the 38 starts that he's had that were mostly poor?
I'm going to turn the mic over to the guys. My question before that is, what did you guys ask of Sam Darnold, though? Did you and I haven't watched the Jets as closely, but the idea is that a quarterback comes in at top 3 to a bad team, then gets a new coach, that's bad. The whole organization seemed just a mess. Everybody tells us the offensive line was atrocious and was still atrocious given the fact that you got an awesome tackle last year in the draft. Not a lot of talent at receiver. I'm not trying to, make excuses, but what did you ask of Darnold in those 3 years as a quarterback for the team?
Well, that was sort of what I was getting at before. That's what the question is here. It's how much of this is Darnold just not being as good as we thought, or how much of this is he didn't have enough surrounding talent, he got bad coaching, and so on and so forth, because there's two schools of thought here, right? One school of thought is how good is any quarterback, especially a young quarterback coming in the league, going to be if he is surrounded by a bad offensive line, although this past year it was better, but still not great. And if he doesn't have, top-notch weapons around him. Now, the funny thing is the best receiver that he had, or the one that he probably put up the best numbers with, is the guy that you guys have now in Robbie Anderson. So that'll be interesting. But I think that really is the question is, we all know the Jets did him no favors, right? They didn't put him in a great position to succeed. As you said, the O-line, especially his first 2 years, was really bad. The receivers, I mean, I'll put it this way. They weren't great. They weren't necessarily as bad as some people have said, but they weren't really all that impressive. He didn't have a great running game, and to be fair, part of that is because of the offensive line. Le'Veon Bell never got going behind there, and really nobody did during Darnold's time. So you put all that together, and we all know what a disaster Gase was. Gase ran a terrible offense for Darnold. So all of that plays in, and that's why I think that so many teams were interested. From what we heard, up to 8 teams had called the Jets. That's a quarter of the league. So there were certainly decision makers and coaches and stuff who looked at this and said, I could get something out of this guy. Look at how poorly he was coached. Look at how poorly he was surrounded. But again, we come back to, if he was really as good as we were expecting him to be, even if that stuff around him was bad, he wouldn't have been this bad, right? Like he was statistically the 33rd worst quarterback in the league in 2020. So that's really the question. Plus also there's the issue of the regression his third year. Can he be pulled back from that? That's really where you're at right now, is you have to figure that out. And again, I think Rule and I think that Brady are betting that they can fix him, and that all the stuff that we saw, especially the last 4 games of his rookie year and everything that everybody loved about him coming into the league, that they can still get that out of him. And look, I don't think it's a terrible gamble on their part, because realistically, even with picking up the 5th-year option, so it's basically a 2-year, $24 million deal. It's not a terrible flyer for a guy with Darnold's kind of talent, especially since, as you said, Tony, if you go into the draft, odds are that you're not going to be able to get one of those quarterbacks. And I'm sure they made that calculation. That's why they made this move, because if they felt like they could get one of the quarterbacks they wanted, they would have just done that at number 8. Or if they felt like they could have moved up, they would have just done it. So the question is, would you rather have Darnold or maybe like Kellen Mond in the 2nd round? And I think most people would say Darnold absolutely has more talent than somebody like Kellen Mond. So you get him on a 2-year trial. If Brady and Rule are right about him, then you guys are well on your way at quarterback, because he's only 24. If they're wrong, all right, well, you didn't have much right now, because I know, Tony, you can't stand Teddy Bridgewater. And look, my thought on Bridgewater is I wouldn't mind having him back here as a backup for the new guy. I think he's a steady Eddie. He's not going to kill you. He's not the guy that you want to hitch your wagon to in 2020 or 2021 in the passing game, because he's pathologically conservative. Somebody once said he's almost like the illegitimate child of Alex Smith, the way he plays. So I think when you think about it from that perspective, if you're the Panthers, this wasn't a bad roll of the dice.
It really wasn't. And I wanted to kind of pinpoint on Adam Gase for a minute. I think you can admit, as well as any Jets fan could, Adam Gase is especially terrible at his job.
Yeah.
I mean, it is literally known that players leave his coaching tutelage, go somewhere else, and dude, they just start living their best life, man. they're out there making plays and just, it's like they have a new life that pops up into them. My question is this: how much of Sam Darnold, you said there was a play where there were 3 receivers open, and he just didn't hit any of them. Well, I never saw that on his film at USC. I mean, yeah, he missed some throws here and there, but for the most part, Sam Darnold, his issue was just being reckless with the football, not necessarily being inaccurate, but just throwing into double coverage, holding on to the ball too long. But inaccuracy wasn't ever really Sam Darnold's thing. So to hear you say that he regressed in 2020, to me, that kind of seems like further evidence that he didn't have a quarterback coach. He was under Adam Gase, and he didn't have a ton of perimeter weapons. So with that said, do you think there's some truth that Sam Darnold just never felt confident, never felt comfortable, and he was even playing below his means in that final year up there in New York?
Oh yeah, there's no question. But that really comes back to what I was saying. We know Gase was terrible. We know that Gase didn't do anything positive for him and really did a lot negative for him. We know that the front office didn't do a lot to surround him with anything more than, at best, talent. Because I would say the receiving core, when those guys were healthy this year, Mims, Perriman, and Crowder, it's not great, but it's not the worst I've ever seen. Or even when it was Crowder and Robbie Anderson last year, again, not great, but I've seen worse. But the question is, can Darnold be salvaged from what he's been turned into what people thought he could be when he was at USC? Because like you said, he seemed much more decisive there, and he just seemed a lot of times to be shell-shocked. And like I said, if you go and look at his 2020 tapes, 2018 and 2019, there was a lot of, I guess you would say inconsistency. There were some times where he flashed and you're like, wow. And then there were times where you're like, oh, what was that? 2020, there were very few flashes, and it was like 95%. Oh, what was he doing right there? So the question is he a guy who can still have that potential dragged out of him and become a good quarterback? Or is he just a bad quarterback who flashed? And that's kind of what has to be figured out here. Again, this is the gamble that Rule and Brady are taking. They're taking the gamble that Darnold is actually a good quarterback who had all these bad circumstances, and that's why he didn't play well, as opposed to, bad circumstances, but also Darnold wasn't good. So that's really what this comes down to. It all comes back to, how much do you believe that the player can still persevere after 3 years of subpar performances, and how much of it was his fault? How much of it can a new coaching staff and new weapons fix?
What was wrong with when you said Gase didn't have the right offense for him? What was wrong with it?
I mean, there were a lot of times, if you looked at, there wasn't a lot of motion in the offense for starters. In fact, there's practically none until we saw Dowell Loggins, the challenge flag master, take over for a couple of games, and magically we saw a little bit of that. There was also Darnold's biggest strength is him being able to get out on the move, and a lot of times Gase would try to have him in the pocket, and that generally wouldn't go as well. He's also somebody that, when things were going poorly in 2019, as an example, they should have leaned a lot more on Le'Veon Bell as a receiver. And I don't just mean catching balls out of the backfield. I mean, physically using him as a receiver in mismatches. They never did any of that. They didn't do Darnold any favors by heavily relying on Frank Gore getting, 2 yards per carry or whatever like that, and putting a ton of pressure on Darnold to be in a lot of these 3rd and long situations. I think in 2019, he might have led the league in 3rd and longs. So there were a lot of things that Gase did that just didn't play to Darnold's strengths and put him in very difficult positions. So there's no question at all, and no Jets fan would say otherwise, that Gase was terrible overall and terrible for Darnold. So that's one thing that I guarantee you was a big part of this conversation with Rule and Brady and the general manager there, Scott Fitterer, who, by the way, the Jets almost hired instead of Joe Douglas. I heard they really liked him. He might have even been their runner-up for the job if Douglas hadn't taken it. But I'm sure those conversations included, okay, we've watched his tape, and we can't believe how badly Gase misused this guy. If we use him A, B, and C, we think we can get much better production out of him.
Is it really true he didn't have a quarterbacks coach?
Yeah, Gase himself was the quarterbacks coach. He had Dowell Loggins as the offensive coordinator, but Gase really did everything himself. So at one point, Gase turned the play calling over to Dowell Loggins toward the end of the season, but he took it back at some point too. He had no quarterback coach. That was an ongoing joke. We were saying, how could you be that foolish and that stubborn that this guy is so bad and you're supposed to be a quarterback guru and you don't see what's right in front of your face that you need a real quarterback coach? It was embarrassing.
Scott, let me ask you this, and this will probably be my final question to you about Darnold. Just give me your honest opinion, man. Don't tell us what we want to hear. Just if you had a gun to your head, your honest opinion, does Sam Darnold turn it around in Carolina?
Here's what I'll say. As a Jets fan, as Tony said, I did want the Jets to move on from Darnold, but there's a couple of reasons why. The first one is that the Jets are picking second, so they have the opportunity to get a really good quarterback prospect now. If they brought Darnold back on the final year of his deal, then you don't know if he's bad, what happens then, or even if he's better but not great, then you don't know what to do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't know what the quarterback class is going to look like, and you also don't. Let's say Darnold improves, but not a ton. Do you extend him? Do you let him walk? What do you do? So they were going to be in a tough situation. I thought because of where they were picking, absolutely, it was time to move on. Now, what I had also said, I think, Tony, last time we talked was if the Jets were, say, sitting at number 12, right, I would say roll with Darnold because you're not going to get one of those top prospects without giving up an insane haul like the 49ers did, right? And at that rate, you're like, okay, new coaching staff, new system, let's see what he can do. Maybe he's not going to be an elite quarterback, but maybe he can get to middle of the pack. And that's kind of what I think might happen here. I think he's definitely going to be better, no question. There's better weapons. And I'm not saying Joe Brady. I think Joe Brady's gotten a little too hyped, but he's clearly a million times the offensive mind that Adam Gase is. So I think between Brady and Rule and the weapons around him, especially Robbie, because he's very comfortable with Robbie Anderson, and a better offensive line and Christian McCaffrey, if he's healthy, you'll see an improved Darnold. Now, the question for me is how much improved is he going to be?
That's the same what we're asking too.
Right. And so I think that if it's possible that he could, I think I heard Dan Hansis from the Around the NFL podcast say that he could be a plus version of Andy Dalton in his prime, which I don't think is terrible. I think Andy Dalton was a solid quarterback in his prime. If Darnold could be a more athletic, more a better out of structure type of quarterback than Dalton out of the pocket, especially for what the Panthers gave up, that's not terrible for a guy at 24 years old. So if I were to bet, I would say he's not going to ever get to where we all thought he would be. Like a lot of us thought he could be a top 10 or even top 5 quarterback. I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think that with the right coaching and the right weapons around him, there's at least a chance he could be maybe what like Miami version of Ryan Tannehill was, like a top 15 to 20 quarterback. And again, if that happens, he's better than what you had with Bridgewater, and he at least gives you something to work with. And maybe from there he can get even better. So look, I don't know. I think there's also a fair chance that he's just too far gone. There's absolutely, because if you watch his 2020 film, there's some stuff you see on there and you're like, ooh, Gase didn't tell him to not throw to a wide open receiver 15 yards down the field and instead spin away and take a 2-yard sack. Like that's not on Adam Gase at that point. So there's a lot of concerning stuff, and he very well could just be suffering from David Carr syndrome or whatever. But
that's the scariest thing that you could hear.
Yep.
because that guy was
Yeah.
good, and he got sacked 73 times. And he went like I firmly believe if he's sitting in the movie theater and big fat men walk in, he pees his pants. Like, I mean, he sees big fat guys and he is in fear, bro. And he was ruined. He was ruined. There was no coming back. It was like the kicker from Tampa Bay that they drafted.
Yeah.
And he got the yips. It's just like, yeah, that is a tough question. It's like we better get a sports psychologist on the show to figure it out. CK, you got any questions? Because I only got one left, and we'll get Scott. I know he's got a lot of work to do still.
Yeah, I wanted to, first start out by saying I think that this was, and I think a lot of people will agree, a win-win for the Jets and the Panthers, right? The Panthers didn't have to sell the farm, like give up 3 years of draft picks to move up for a quarterback that still very possibly could not, might not work out.
Or take time, or take significant time to work out.
Exactly. And what we did instead is we are still taking an equally, if not, less likely gamble, right? It's not as impactful for our bottom dollar, but it's also not as likely to pan out as the top 5 quarterback in the draft is. But we didn't have to mortgage our organization for the next 3 years to do so. So I think that made a lot of sense. But my question is more about the compensation you did receive. There's a two-parter here. Number one, are you satisfied with the compensation you got as a Jets organization? Or if you are, if you are not, what would you have preferred to see happen? Or were you expecting even less? And then the second is, are you mad that you guys didn't get the trade? Would you have been pissed off had you traded back like the Miami Dolphins did for a similar, if not better, haul?
All right. So first part of that, I'm definitely happy with what they got. I wasn't so sure they were going to get a second rounder. My friend Nick Spano over at U Stadium was insisting all along that his sources within the Jets were telling him that they were confident they were going to get a second rounder. And I thought after the 49ers made that move, because we had heard the 49ers were the most aggressive team with Darnold, that ship probably sailed and that maybe they were going to get a third round pick. A 2, a 4, and a 6 seems like pretty good value to me, especially considering that they were moving on and going in a different direction. So I'm all for that. I wouldn't have wanted to trade down. And I think a lot of the reason why is what I was saying before, which is the Jets are in a position now to grab a really good quarterback prospect. And again, in 2022, who knows? Like, there could be a guy like, look, we know every year there seems to be somebody that jumps out of nowhere to become a top prospect, right? Zach Wilson is the guy this year. Last year it was Burrow, Baker Mayfield one year. So you go throughout all of these drafts, and there's always that one guy that comes at Carson Wentz, right? That comes out of nowhere and becomes one of the top draft picks. So you could say that could happen next year. But the way I look at it is, you don't know where you're going to be picking next year. You have no clue. If you end up picking 10th, then if you want a quarterback, you have to end up giving up, like you said, years worth of draft picks to get to where you are right now, where you don't have to do that. You can just pick the guy you like if you like him, and that's the end of it. So I think that the best move by far is what they did, which is to stay at 2. And I assume pick a quarterback, and it looks like it's probably going to be Zach Wilson. So that would be.
With that? Yeah, that was going to be my question. Who's the guy?
Yeah, that's who I would take too. I've done a lot of work on a lot of these quarterbacks, just watching the film, but also mostly calling around and talking to people that have covered them, or that I even I spoke to teammates and stuff like that. I had Mason Wake, who is the fullback for BYU, on the show. I've done a couple of different shows that are going to be coming out over the next couple of weeks, and what I can tell you is, the thing about Zach Wilson that I love is that people have for some reason decided that because he comes from money, that must be a black mark, like he's a spoiled brat or something like that. From everything that I've heard from people I've talked to, he's the exact opposite of that. And the funny thing is, having money actually probably worked to his advantage in a way that you wouldn't necessarily expect, because he's so driven. He's so obsessed with being the absolute best. And when you combine that and his work ethic with the financial means to get the absolute best coaching and the best training available, that's when you are able to turn into one of the top quarterbacks in the entire country. And there's so many stories that I have heard about, him working, like he was 5'10", 150 pounds as a high school junior. And one of the guys that ran one of these camps told his father, your son's a quarterback? I mean, he's 150 pounds. And from there, he was determined to put on weight, put on muscle. And I don't know if you saw this, but at the combine, he had been telling everybody he was 215 pounds and no one believed him. He weighed in at 215 pounds. You go through, driving 6 hours to go work out with John Beck during the pandemic, back and forth, working on all kinds of different things. In fact, he specifically worked with John Beck on how to throw with bad footwork because he doesn't want to throw with bad footwork, but he wanted to be able to do it if he was in a position where he was forced into a spot where his feet weren't good. So, you look at that, you look at his pre-snap recognition, you look at the way that he reads defenses, how he processes quickly, his accuracy, his ability to throw into tight windows, to get out of the pocket and make off-platform throws. I think he really is a phenomenal quarterback prospect. And I know a lot of people have called him a one-year wonder. It's not really true because his freshman year, he was very, very good. He came in, I think it was mid-October. His first game was a win against Hawaii. He played really well that year. His sophomore year, before that season, he had surgery to repair a torn labrum. 2 weeks before the season started, he couldn't throw 15 yards on a fly. And I think it was around the beginning of November, he ended up having surgery on his throwing hand. And then magically, his junior year, when he was healthy again, he picked up where he left off his freshman year. So I think a lot of people need to understand that sophomore year was because of the injuries. I have a friend who actually contributes to both the show and PlayLikeAJet.com. His name's Dr. Steven Stoller, 35-year orthopedic surgeon. And he's done a ton of surgeries on sports injuries. And what he told me when I asked him if he'd be concerned is he said, no, torn labrum, no big deal. Drew Brees played on it and played 15 Hall of Fame seasons. So, yeah, that's who I would pick. I'm definitely pleased with that. I think it makes a lot of sense. And listen, if the Jaguars want to shock the world and take Wilson, I'd be plenty happy with Trevor Lawrence too.
What's the JetBlue conspiracy? And then we'll let you go. Tell us about this.
The JetBlue. This is my favorite thing. I love this so much. You guys are going to crack up at this. So Zach Wilson, I said before, he comes for money, right? So his uncle is the founder of JetBlue. So there are people on like Jet's Twitter who started talking about, because a lot of people have been pumping up Zach Wilson. And then you started hearing people saying, oh, the JetBlue money is getting to people. And there were actually people pushing this idea that JetBlue was paying people off to say nice things about Zach Wilson on social media and even on TV. So like every time, like I remember when Chris Sims came out and said, oh, he's my number one quarterback. And I was joking like, damn it, JetBlue got to Sims, And then when I was pumping him up, I was like, JetBlue, where's my money? Where's my money, JetBlue? So, yeah, it's hilarious.
Obviously, JetBlue is responsible for the Justin Fields doesn't like football take. Also with that. All right.
You want my own theory on that real quick, Tony?
Sure.
The Justin Fields. My personal theory is that was probably a scout or two who is on it, who's with a team that wants Fields and is hoping to drive down his stock. That's my own personal
Pat McAfee.
Yeah, I believe it. Right. I believe it. All right, great stuff. Scott Mason, Play Like a Jet. Tell them where they can find your podcast and find you on Twitter.
Absolutely. Boys, a pleasure as always. Love talking to you. I'm happy to come on anytime you want. And if the Jets end up trading one of Darnold's favorite guys over there, we certainly talk about that too. And I'm looking forward to joining you guys for a bit on draft night. So everything's over at PlayLikeAJet.com. We got written stuff. We got our YouTube channel now. A lot of cool stuff. We're gonna do a lot of things with U Stadium coming up. So I'm
I know those guys. Is Frankie Vittorini still with them?
He sure is, man. Him and Nick are the co-founders.
I know Frankie.
Yeah, those guys are awesome. I'm looking forward to doing stuff with them. And then the podcast, as I said, somehow I've been doing it 7 days a week for over 3 years now. You can find it on anywhere that you download podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google, Apple, all of that. And you just type in Play Like a Jet, you'll find it. Even if you're not a Jets fan, we're doing a ton of draft coverage. So even if you just want to hear about certain prospects that might fit certain systems, or, because you guys are running, I guess, the Sean Payton offense. And the Sean Payton offense is different from what the Jets are going to be running, but there's some similarities. So we'll talk about a lot of these prospects and a lot of draft stuff. So even if you're not a Jets fan, there could be some fun things for you. And also, I should bring this up. I have tons and tons and tons of podcasts about Sam Darnold. So if you want to dive into that, absolutely. And in fact, Tony, what I'll do for you, if you want, I'll at some point after I get off the air with you guys, I'll start going through some old links and I'll send you some stuff that we've done on Darnold. So if you and your audience want to have a listen to it, you're more than welcome. I've even got stuff from when Darnold was drafted. We went through his USC tape. So a lot of stuff there if you guys are interested in diving in on that.
All right. Sounds great, man. Thanks again, Scott, man. And you have a good one. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. That's Scott Mason. Play Like a Jet. All right, guys. Let's power through. We got to get back to the calls and go. Go, 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 according to Cody.
It's your boy, Jay Anderson, hitting you up. David Tepper is a clown ass, man. Man, we gone from Cam. He's talking about, I want a Super Bowl type of quarterback. Dude, you had one with Cam. Then you went and you released him. And you got Teddy Bridgewater. And now Sam Darnold. I just not a believer in Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has not shown me anything since college. And I know a lot of people was like, he was great in his first year starting. But man, if you look at that second year, he was not that dude. He was a turnover machine. Once everybody started doing film on him and figuring out him, he was not that dude. I don't see the glory in him. I don't see nothing. And everybody want to say that he went to the Jets. Adam Gates slowed him down, blaming on Adam Gates. And I'm not saying Adam Gates is a great coach or nothing like that. But man, if you that good of a quarterback, you can overcome a bad coach. I have seen players like that. We had a guy like Cam Newton who overcome a bad OC in Mike Shula. Mike Shula was terrible at OC. I ain't care if he had the number one. We all know when the Panthers, was the number one offense. We all know it was because of Cam, not Shula.
I don't know. Shula was good that year.
Play calling was so predictable and stuff like that. When Cam had Rob and North Camden. It didn't matter what OC had. Cam and flowing.
Yeah,
I don't see Sam Darnold as that dude, man. And I heard some people saying like, "Hey, they probably still get a quarterback." I still think it's dumb. It might be. It might be a backup plan if just in case they don't get Lance or Fields and stuff like that. Still, like, you did. David Tepper, he did dump from the get go. It's like the only good decision he had since being in Arizona was on the other side of this, not the football side of this.
I appreciate the call, Jay Anderson, man. I do want to, I got to say is that, boy, Scott took the wind out of our sails. The calls are trying to dampen the hope springs eternal attitude. But they bring up a lot of good points, and those points aren't fair. Cody, I'll ask you this but right before we move on to the next question, if this works out, it's brilliant, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If this fails, though, this is 2 consecutive failures under the Matt Rule regime when it comes to quarterbacks and misplays potentially. What then do we take away after that, I guess?
Does he get a pass because it's 2 different GMs?
I don't think so. I think that it's starting to be a pattern then.
Yeah. Listen, he doesn't have a very long leash. And I said this yesterday. I think that's part of what benefits us is that Sam Darnold has to know all the criticism that people have of him. Like in today's world, you don't just stay away from all the hot takes on not even just on Twitter, but on TV as well. From all the news shows of all the analysts just trashing you. If this is able to pan out for us, it might be one of the best trades in NFL history. That's on the highest end, but that's if he is able to really, really hit his potential. You know, if not, then he doesn't have a very short leash here. So, I don't know, man. We'll see how it pans out, but I think him having a chip on his shoulder bodes well for Panthers fans because he's coming in here with something to prove.
Yep. All right, next call.
Hey guys, this is John from PA, long-time listener, first-time caller. Love the show. Big fan of what you guys do. Really appreciate it. Wanted
Thank
to give
you.
my take on the big news of the day and the week, the backup defensive backs we just signed today. No, but obviously on the Darnold trade. So I think it was a good move for them. I think it was a relatively low risk. I think we can, debate on whether a second round next year is too much, but ultimately it pales in comparison to what it would cost to trade up in the draft to either go up to 3 when that was a possibility or go up to 5. So I think it's pretty low risk, and it'll be hopefully a high payoff. If we can surround him with an offensive line, and he's already got way better weapons than he did in New York. So we'll see how that pans out. But I'm curious to see too what we do in the draft now. I think this obviously gives us the luxury to sit at 8 and just see what happens. I think I'm of the mindset that if Fields or Lance is there at 8, I think we should still take them. I think it's not the worst case if we have two good quarterbacks in training camp. I'd get rid of Bridgewater. I'm not counting him in that category. But I think that wouldn't be the problem. And I think that kind of, gives us a backstop. If Darnold's not the answer, in 2 years, we're in the same place we are now. So I think if Fields or Lance is there at 8, we still got to grab them, let them compete, and hopefully one of them works out. I think if that's the case, then, we got to build up the offensive line in the second and third rounds for sure. Give them some support. With that being said, I don't think they're going to be there. So I think the next best option is to take, hopefully Penei Sewell. I think he's the best line prospect in the draft. Maybe Rashawn Slater if he's not available, or Kyle Pitts. And, if none of those guys are there, I'd be happy to, trade down and accumulate some draft capital. So, I think the risk is that if Darnold doesn't pan out, then, we're in the same situation. So that's why I'd still be willing to, take a quarterback and see what happens. But, love you guys. Keep pounding.
As Jim Rome would say, rack 'em. Great introduction to the podcast. I got to just agree with all the points, and particularly one that has to do with picking a quarterback at 8 if it's still there. If it's there, this is why this move was necessary. If it's there, we get to take it. If it's not there, we don't have to force it. Cody, what's this big shout out to Can You See My Armpit? $5 love bomb. He also says this: I threw 18 TDs. This is a cool question. Please do this for me like once a month. Can you see my armpit? I like this. I threw 18 TDs, 12 interceptions my first year as a starter, 28 touchdowns, 14 interceptions my second, and 23 and 12 picks my third. Who am I? I just wrote Cam Newton because I didn't know who else to write. Does anybody have any guesses? And who is it?
It's not Sam Darnold.
No, I know it's not Sam Darnold.
Yeah, it's not Sam Darnold. It's not Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater's never had more than 15 touchdowns in the season. So
I don't know.
No. He says Tom Brady. Is that real? Damn. I don't know, man. I wouldn't have thought Tom Brady.
His first season as a starter,
he was a game manager.
He was a game manager. He came in as a backup, and their defense won that that entire year for them. Like it wasn't. I mean, he wasn't losing the game. He still had that game. He had that baller mentality. He was still able to come in and be very clutch. As is evident in his run in the Super Bowl. But Tom Brady. I mean, he's still like he didn't have incredible figures, and then once that confidence was building up, you started to see something change for him. So yeah, it's actually pretty interesting.
All right, let's go to the next call.
I'm sitting here listening to the impromptu show yesterday.
Uh-oh.
And Tony, I know stuff happened with the computer and all that, but it sounds like you are on a grammar homeboy. I mean, you got like 20/20 vision on your camera. You like 4K on your camera, but then it sounds like you're talking into an old shoe or something. I don't know. But hey, I've been watching a lot of news on the Teddy Bridgewater deal. Sam Darnold, and it's saying that this is all the analysts that I've seen, I've heard this more than one news outlet, more than one news person. They're saying it's a win, win, win. Jets and unless it comes to Teddy Bridgewater, then they're he lost. Teddy lost. So, I mean, win for the Jets that they got out of that contract. Win for the Panthers because they're getting rid of Teddy. And win for Darnold because he's getting a fair shake at this NFL thing. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Like you guys are talking, Adam Gase. I mean, was Peyton really knew what he was talking about when he endorsed Adam Gase? I don't know. It seems to be like people go on and have better careers. And the big thing I'm seeing is the temperature of all this is optimism. You see all these Panther players and Robbie. You see all the fan base. Everybody's optimistic. I've not seen too many people excited. Like it's somebody even alluded to this being like, oh, a starting quarterback got traded. Yawn. Like this is huge news. And everybody's kind of optimistic, want to see what happens, but nobody's really excited. I'm optimistic. Is Teddy Bridgewater at the helm, but man, this seems like a slightly more than lateral step up. I'm not super excited about it. I like our coaching staff, and everybody craps on the Jets. And, like Good Morning Football is crapping all over the Jets this morning, going over what's happening. And Adam Gase gets a bunch of hate out. Homie's going to get on the commissioner example list just to be a second coach. But I'm sure it's going to be the only thing talked about tonight. But those are my thoughts. Thank you. Bye.
All right, thanks for your call. Can you see my armpit says my point with the super chat systems make players until players can make themselves better. That's a great point. As Tom Brady wasn't Tom Brady to start. He had a winning type of gene, but he was put on in a remarkable situation, right? Like when it comes to that Super Bowl team that beat the Panthers, he wasn't, or the year before. Like, I mean, he was just not. He had a good defense. He had a lot of weapons. It was a good situation, good coaching. And to the caller about I'm sorry about the audio. I wasn't even using my computer. I was having to try to use my phone as the conduit, and that's what it was. All right. Let me just check this chat real quick. All right. Next call. By the way, that's why I'm playing these calls through my telephone right now, and I'm locked up in my wife's former bedroom. Look, her name's on the wall. Still.
First thing I want to touch on is you guys brought up the whole Deshaun Watson thing last week, the whole legal thing, and that sort of thing. Okay? Now, granted, charges are it's officially being investigated, whatever. As someone who's been through the legal process, not for sexual assault, for some other thing that I'm not going to go into, okay, everyone around you who doesn't believe you believes the other person, and then in turn drops you like a sack of potatoes. Okay? on top of that, in today's day and age, you are basically guilty until proven innocent. Gone are the days where you are innocent until proven guilty.
Welcome to social media.
That's a good point.
At the end of the day,
yes,
you are looked at like you are guilty until you prove your innocence. All right, I forget everything that was said last week, but judging by my own personal case that I had gone through, granted 6 years ago at this point, I basically had to plead for my innocence, even though there was enough facts already on the table to prove that I was innocent. So just wanted to throw that out there, okay? And on top of that, things don't have to necessarily add up for someone to be found guilty. It's all in how everything is presented, okay, and how basically everybody's feeling that day. As messed up as it sounds, that's the world that we live in, and I just want to throw that out there. Now, last year with Ron Rivera, or 2 years ago at this point, one of our biggest gripes with him was the fact that he went for the veterans more than he went for the rookies, or he stuck with the veterans in that sort of. I kind of had the same gripe about the new coaching staff, okay? Because the whole last season last year, we were dealing with Teddy dumpster water, okay? And he was absolutely terrible. Yet we had 2 other quarterbacks on our roster. And they even felt the need to say that PJ had the best arm on the team last year. I really feel like with a losing record and with no hope, we really should have played some of our other talent on our roster. Okay, let me know what you guys think, because that is an issue that it's biting us in the ass right now with where we don't know who we got. So, love the show, guys. Keep going.
I think the complicated part about last year is that there was a moment in the middle where we were starting to get some momentum. And, like we broke the losing streak, and all of a sudden it thought, man, maybe this team's a little bit better than we were giving credit for. We're actually in the hunt. And they didn't want to tank. Yeah, but there was, and we were critical. A lot of us, and you included, Nick, were critical about that. Is like, why aren't we looking at other options when we know what we got here? Just another shout out for you, brother, is check out the podcast called Serial, Season 3 of Serial. And they do a close watch of the Cleveland justice system. It's one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to, and you will you will be justified and validated in what you said in very many ways on that podcast and by that podcast. Thanks, Nick, for your call. Let's keep going.
Let me say before we do it, I want to say one thing, because this kind of got lost. Tony, can you hear me?
Atlanta over Carolina. 36 seconds to go. 36 from the Atlanta 19. Darnold back to pass. Here comes the pressure. Darnold steps to his right. He steps up in the pocket. Throws it. It's caught at the 11. Dan Arnold makes a defender miss. 10-5 touchdown. Dan Arnold. Darnold to Arnold touchdown. Darnold to Arnold with 11 seconds to go, and Bank of America goes wild. Hey guys, it's Chuck from Elizabeth City.
What's up, Chuck?
That's what we can look forward to this year.
Hey, all
I
right.
think that would be awesome. The real good thing I think happened with this trade is, we didn't really lose a lot of assets. I really feel if we can somehow manage to eat part of Teddy's salary, get him shipped somewhere, we pick up a mid-round pick that can kind of take care of the 4th-round pick. We're only losing the 6th this year. It's really not a big deal. I know the 2nd-round pick is a big deal, but if we can improve this team through this draft, build the trenches in the secondary, come away with a few good players, I think we're set to do well. Now, does that mean we're going to make the playoffs? No. But I definitely think we can be on the plus side of 9 wins or more. Realistically, we could be. Darnold's a young quarterback. I think he got a raw deal. anything has got to be better than the 0-8 we saw with Teddy. And I realize all those games weren't on Teddy. We had a kicker who missed some important kicks. But I really do feel that we can really do so well. And we could come away from this draft building the left tackle, 1 or 2 guards, get your safety, get your cornerback, maybe find another receiver for depth. I think we're going to be doing okay, guys. So just want to get your take on that. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, and that building through the draft, this allows us to build a team the right way. If there is a right way, but without having to force the issue. And I like that the team has come out and said that they're open to taking quarterback still if it's there.
Yeah. Listen, I said that this gives us the opportunity to do a lot of different things with that number 1 pick. By the way, I wanted to say something from the call 2 calls ago, and this kind of got lost in the conversation that we originally had about Deshaun Watson. So I wanted to make sure that I clarified this. Like, I wasn't trying to say that if Deshaun Watson was guilty, whatever, we should just not, look both way or not look at it twice and just never mind it and move on. And it is what it is. He'll play again. Like, no, if any of that stuff is true about Deshaun, he clearly has some issues, and CK even said it, he has a kink, like a real fetish going on with massage therapists. And I definitely don't condone any of those actions. The only point that I was trying to make that night is that the precedent had sort of been set amongst other players who have done bad things before, who basically came back to play NFL football, and that Deshaun is definitely guilty until proven innocent. In today's world, that's pretty much, how it is for everyone, especially with the whole Me Too movement and people believing women, So I didn't want to make it sound like I was like, oh, that's okay. It's not a big issue. I was just saying Deshaun deserves his day in court. That's all. If it is true, then I definitely wouldn't want him to be our franchise quarterback. Some people in our Discord were kind of confused about that, so I felt the need to clarify a little bit. So,
all right, next call.
Hey guys, it's Chuck from Elizabeth City. Just kind of throwing it out here about the draft. Going back a week ago, we were all worried because Deshaun Watson's situation did not look good. And of course, we lost out on Matt Stafford. And then it looked like the 49ers trading up to the 3 spot. Like, man, we got to trade up. We got to trade the future or we're doomed. The Darnold thing, and this is not saying that Darnold's going to be an excellent quarterback. I think there's hope. There's a ceiling there. He is young. I think the fortunate thing for us is that he had a terrible coach, no quarterback help, no quarterback coach, and had a lousy organization who did not surround him with good weapons. And his line wasn't too bad, but at times it was pretty crappy until the last year here where they've been trying to develop some talent on that line. But I want to kind of throw it out here because now we're in a situation where the draft could play out in our favor. I definitely know that the quarterbacks are going in the first 3 picks. Atlanta's either going to trade that pick. They could take a quarterback. If they trade the pick, somebody taking 4 is taking a quarterback. Or they could take Kyle Pitts. If they take a quarterback, and let's say between Cincinnati, Miami, and Detroit, one of those 3 will take a lineman. We really got to hope Cincy takes a receiver. Miami might take they might take a receiver. We can end up having Sewell as a first option, second option Slater. So we're going to walk away with a great left tackle. If both of them are gone, what if we get the quarterback? What if Trey Lance is there? Or what if we trade that pick? If Lance is there, we don't want to develop him, and we get an extra first rounder because we trade down a few spots and still get a player of extreme value, whether it be a corner or another lineman or something of that nature that we can use, or a linebacker. Okay, if those are going and Pitts isn't there, then maybe we take the first defensive player off the board. Could be Surtain. I think we're sitting in a pretty good spot. Whether we trade down, accumulate more picks, we end up grooming a backup quarterback for the long run. or we end up getting one of these offensive linemen or Chicane, which will answer the secondary issue. But I really feel like we.
All right, great stuff, Chuck. Let's keep rolling through. Here's Kevin from Charleston.
Hey, it's Kevin from Charleston again. All right, enough about Sam Darnold. The real question is, what are we doing in the draft? Are we getting the tackles? Or are we getting picks? Or are we going to trade back? Maybe a corner? I don't know. You tell me. Peace.
Cody, I'll let you take this. You're on mute.
Yeah, right now, if I'm the Carolina Panthers, if Trey Lance or Justin Fields don't fall to us, which I would still take them in that event and let them sit behind Sam Darnold or try and beat him out for the job. If one of those two guys are not there, yeah, I'm taking Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater. Also, wouldn't be mad at Surtain or J.C. Horn, and I kind of think Kyle Pitts will be gone. But if he is there, we definitely need another tight end with the receiving talent of Kyle Pitts. Not much of a blocker, but dude, at this point, it doesn't matter. Everyone sees what kind of weapon that guy is. But I would say QB still first, depending on the guy there, then left tackle, then cornerback in that order.
Build that wall. We need offensive linemen. That's what we need. All right, next call.
What it do, C3? It's your boy Mike, a.k.a. Supreme Leader.
What's up, bro?
Hope you guys are having a fantastic Tuesday. I am. Let me just take this time out to congratulate y'all on y'all 2,000 subscribers.
Appreciate you, man.
Big achievement. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thank you, brother.
You know, since I found you guys, you know, it's been all love. You know, I ride or die for the Carolina Panthers, so it's
You're in the right spot,
great
homie.
to be a part of the longest running Panther podcast
My man.
of the world.
That's true. In the world.
I just want to talk about one thing because I know y'all talked about Sam Darnold and what we're going to do in the draft already. So let me just state this. I commend you, Tony, for finally wanting Kyle Pitts. You know, I would joke with you all the time about taking the tight end in the first round and all that. I know the history, but kudos to you, good sir. He is a beast, and I wouldn't mind having him, but I would assume if he doesn't go to the Falcons, he's going to the Dolphins, maybe. I don't see him sliding to us, but regardless of the fact, we should get Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater. So, yeah, that man feels so good. We got a promising young quarterback in his early years, and we're not strapped for anything in the draft. We can just sit back and just take what we need. So it feels good. All right, so I got cut off last time. Here's my best Panther growl. Oh.
Thanks, Supreme Leader, man. We appreciate you. We're glad to have you part of the fam. All right, next call.
Yo, C3 podcast. What's good? It's JDO for I think it's my second or third time calling in, but no, guys do want to throw out my opinion on everything so far. And personally, I'm optimistic about us picking up or trading for Sam Darnold. I off the dude's talent alone, like I watched a little bit of his highlights, so a little bit of film on him. He's easily more talented than Teddy. So pairing him up with our coaching staff, if they can get all the bad habits that he developed being with the Jets out of him, and
What happened?
Is he still going?
Oh, he got cut off. All right.
Yo, C3 Podcast. This is JBO 54. I just got cut off the last time. I don't know what happened. But what I was trying to say was I'm optimistic about us trading for Sam. I think he can be like I think he can be coached up. Like his ceiling has to be higher than what Teddy is, because at this point everyone knows what Teddy is. So I'm looking at him with the same lens I was viewing Teddy through. Like before we traded for him, I was thinking we were going into the season with Teddy. If we did pick up a QB, stuff was still going to need to be built up around whoever is at QB. So with the draft coming up, if they're able to secure the left tackle position or secure the cornerback position, because that's still a question mark, they get these things right. As other people have alluded to, we're not tied to either quarterback for an extended period of time. So if things don't work out, then cut bait. And more than likely, if we're not doing too hot this upcoming season, we'll be in the top 10 again. And if there's a guy there that you feel can actually be a franchise QB, then you move heaven and earth to get him. So I'm optimistic about the trade. Appreciate what you guys are doing. I'm out.
All right, man. Appreciate the call. I like the perspective. And
while you're pulling that up, Aaron Rodgers 2022 if Sam Darnold's a bust.
Yeah. All right. I think this is the last call right here.
Oh, shit.
How should we feel about Sam Darnold? Was it just a bad team and organization in the Jets? Did he just not have weapons, or is this guy just not good and was not worth signing him? So that's my question. Is he worth it? Was it just a bad organization, or is he just not good? Thank you. Bye.
We won't know until the end of this year.
Well, it's funny that you say that, CK, because what I was about to say is I don't think so. I think we're going to find out what the answer was real quick. So, for example, I don't think Sam, I don't think we're going to be wondering who Sam is in week, 14, 15. Like, I kind of think we're going to know by the middle of the season if Sam was just a product of a terrible season, or does he actually have, some real deficiencies that he just isn't going to be able to overcome. I don't think that it's going to be some crazy question that we're wondering about throughout the season. I think we're going to know fairly quick. And I think at that point we'll be able to, adjust accordingly. But I think Sam will be able to pick up Joe Brady's offense.
And the reason I say we won't know until the end of the year is because the most important one is that second round pick, right? If we're picking really early in the draft because we went 3 and 14, then yeah, that's a big deal. Like that was definitely not worth it, because that second round pick is almost equivalent to another late round first round pick, because we're going to be picking early in the second round, right? So we gave up a really high top 50 pick. And so, yes, that also plays a part. The other part is it's going to depend upon there's so many factors in this that we've got to think about, right? Number one, if Sam Darnold comes out and he's just okay, he's not fantastic, but there was a quarterback sitting there ready for us to draft at 8 and we decided to pass on them and they come out and they ball out, then it's a bad move there. Even though it may not have been a bust for Sam Darnold, we didn't pick Trey Lance, who came out and threw 40 interceptions and broke a rookie record for whatever may come up. Like there's too many moving. That's where I say that until we see what happens, obviously through the season, but specifically until the end of the season, we're not going to know. I mean, I'd love to be able to tell you right now that and abate all your fears that Sam Darnold's going to work out, that it was all coaching. None of us know that. We're just hopeful and optimistic that the hope that he held as a number 3 draft pick in the NFL 3 years ago is still there, and that we can maybe find a way to bring that same Sam Darnold back to the forefront and actually maybe make him better. But right now, it's a big question mark. We won't know until it actually happens.
All right, I think I found Blake B's call.
Tony, you
Italian madam. I'm not letting you off the hook. You might have thought you got away with it. Oh, no, sir. No, sir, buddy. You skipped my call last week, homeboy. 6436. I'm not going to give the whole number because y'all bleep that out. I don't want that out there anyway. 6436. Last four. I still think it'd be funny today. Shoot. I don't know if you believe them mugs, but hey, the Panthers organization is on fire. It's on fire. I love the analogy. The glass has been broken. The hatchet is out. And they action of Eddie B. Game of Thrones style. And then shopping them. He's over. He's out. Sorry. Hey, I don't know what to think about this. I don't know if we throw the bag or take the bag. Excuse me, if we take the bag if somebody offers it up at number 8, trade down. I mean, I love being able to build that wall. I mean, I don't think Sewell's going to be there, but maybe I think homeboy's name is Slater, number 2, which is a dope name. I don't know if that's going to be available, but in that bag is awful tempting to take if somebody offers it. So, find my call if you want to try Goodbye.
All right, Blake Bettis. We love you, bro. Thanks for your contributions, not only in the call, but in the Discord chat and all, just the support you've given us. And it's wonderful to have such a rich community that we've been building. All right. I hope that was the call we were referring to. And that really, we're going to wrap it up with that. We're going to do our ice up picks and get out of here. What I'll do is we'll kind of reconvene throughout the week, maybe put together some smaller things and just make sure that we have turned over. No rock goes unturned or no stone goes unturned or whatever. So we're going to keep putting up content throughout the week. Watch for Cody Lashney's film reviews. I know he's going to be watching some Sam Darnold stuff. Ice up picks. Anybody got one they're ready for?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. What you got?
All right. So we have, I don't know if you guys know this, but we have a private chat between the people in the show. And Tony was very insensitive to Cody in the chat. And so he told Cody that if he needed to roll out, that we can handle the show. And I just thought that was very insensitive. He could have used any other terminology if you need to get off of the show, but no, he decided to use roll out. So Tony, ice up for being non-politically correct, my dude.
I thought we were friends, Tony Dunn. What the hell?
Could have said walk out. Just walk out then.
Dude, you know what? Just for that, I'm going to kick your ass, bro.
Somebody tell me if Blake B is still in the chat. I hope he didn't run off.
He done dipped out, bro. He said, I'm not even going to stick around for this. You missed my call. I'm done, bro.
Bro, he's in and out, man.
No.
Oh,
Blake Bettis is in and out, bro. By the way, Evangelista says ice up Code Digital for never having a good ice up.
All right, what you got?
So listen, like this is so I can go a few different ways with this. I'll just say this. The All-Star game was canceled. I believe it was the MLB All-Star game from Cobb County because of this new voter suppression law that was passed in Georgia. So as a response, as a retaliation, the MLB said we are no longer bringing our All-Star game to Atlanta. We're not bringing the All-Star game there. And my initial reaction was, I don't necessarily have all the fine details, but aren't you still just hurting the people that have already been negatively affected by a bullshit law? Like now, not only do they have their voting rights suppressed, but now they can't go see the fucking All-Star game if they wanted to. Like, I get that it takes away money from the state, and it's supposed to be like, like a way to show that that's not okay. And I understand it. I'm definitely not down for voter suppression, but in the same light, then you're taking money away from all the people who voted against the laws and against those voter suppression tactics. So again, it's kind of like cutting off your nose to spite your face, in my opinion. I don't necessarily know that gets to change what you're trying to affect. I don't necessarily know that it serves that purpose. So I kind of think you're just hurting the people that have already been negatively affected. So I would say to everyone who's just willing to burn everything down, if they're not able to, get their vote passed or whatever it is, it's kind of narrow-minded, and I think there's too much of that in today's world. So I would say to the MLB, ice up, because you're still hurting the people that have already been hurt by the new law. So it makes no sense to me.
It's like boycotting Coke because they're based out of Atlanta. I know there's other things that are people boycotting. Right now is not a good time to be Coke, but it's all kind of very similar. And you're not help. It's kind of like when people were using you're protesting by destroying stores that have nothing to do with it. Same concept here. You guys are making decisions that are hurting the people that are impacted by this more than helping them. It's just so backwards. It's not even funny. They think they're hurting the state, and they are to a degree, but you're very much more hurting the people that are needing those jobs for the stadium. You're hurting the people that would love to go to those games in the midst of a pandemic when they haven't had that type of a experience. You're taking that away from people that really need it. So I agree. That's a great ice up pick, man.
It worked for the NCAA though in North Carolina, and they got HB2 repealed that way. I guess you're going to bait me into being the opposite on this ice up pick, and not that first is that this is what the fact that we're all surprised that the first thing that people do when they get into office is try to gerrymander elections. They redo districts. They do voting law. That's the redoing of districts is the biggest thing. In North Carolina, we have some real shady mess that just doesn't make it fair. Like you don't get the right candidates in. They don't have a chance. So I do commend people for taking a stand when it comes to voting laws. I do have some questions about business and how they are influenced, but I'm going to ice up Mitch McConnell, who has been very critical about these companies, MLB, and these boycotts. He said this, quote, from election law to environmentalism to radical social agendas to the Second Amendment, parts of the private sector keep dabbling and behaving like a woke parallel government. Corporations will invite serious consequences if they become a vehicle for far left mobs to hijack our country from outside the constitutional order. Businesses, he continued, must not use economic blackmail to spread disinformation, push out bad ideas that citizens reject at the ballot box. The interesting part about this is McConnell was a staunch supporter of the Supreme Court's 2010 decision, Citizens United, which made it so all of these CPACs or whatever they're called, the super PACs, can exist, where they basically open the floodgates on business donations to campaigns. They supported the rights for business to have political agendas. And now you're upset when the political agenda of businesses, and very big ones and powerful ones, just don't happen to be on your side. You didn't have a problem when oil was lobbying for this or that. You didn't have a problem when these other businesses were on your woke ass rights. So, you get what you get. You asked for this. And now it just turns out that these super companies are run by people that don't look and act like you often. And they're not from Georgia, and they're not from Kentucky. They're from leftist ass California or wherever. So, do I think we overreact and we can't I think if anything, this should show us that these are some of the dangers of allowing businesses to be, so influential in a democratic society. But at the same time, you know what? It's their right. If it's really that messed up, then MLB is going to take a hit for this. Is that they should, and maybe they should take a hit. I think that this is far less concerning about them boycotting things than the more concerning part is businesses and lobbying and how they are so influential in the political system all the time, everywhere. We should probably be concerned with some of that. So to Mitch McConnell, ice up. All right, it's the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. We did skip a few calls tonight just because there were multiple calls. So I played as many as I could in the time fashion. It's 12:30 right now. We're going to be, talking and discussing strategies for pushing this along in different ways going forward. But we appreciate all y'all's support. We're glad that you guys are taking advantage of the Cat Calls line. The number is 252-228-5098. It's open all the time for you to voice your opinion. Someone go tell Blake, I find Blake and tell him I played his call. This Italian motherfucker did that. All right. I'm on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. On top of that, you can find my work at CarolinaCatChronicles.com every Tuesday, and follow Cody's film sessions. Go ahead, Cody. How can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at CodyLac, CodyLac. This Thursday, because of Easter, our draft got pushed back a little bit on drafttech.com. I really love the picks that I was able to make this mock go round. So check out drafttech.com. I'm the Panthers analyst. I write first and second round comments for the Carolina Panthers on drafttech.com. And keep your eyes peeled to the channel. I'm going to be going live. I'm trying to go live around 5:30 every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I'm going to make up and I'm going to do a film session tomorrow. More than likely, it's going to be on Sam Darnold. So hit the notification bell. Make sure you're subscribed. Get all the content that we're going to be pumping out to you. Hey, man, we're at the end of the show, and we still almost have 100 viewers, man.
It's insane, man.
Dude, that's
got
the
such a good
dedication
community.
we love. We love you guys. We sincerely mean it, man. We feel like we know so many of you in the chat just from being able to interact with you guys every Tuesday and every time we react. We love doing this. We hope you guys love doing this with us. And, yeah, man, that's it for me. Signing out.
Go also people in the watching the video, listen on the podcast. Go if you haven't checked out our video from yesterday reacting to the trade, just go give it a thumbs up, a share, and boost it, because it's one of those videos that got enough pop that it can take us a little farther. It slowed down, but it jumped from 800 views when we were done to 4,000 overnight. Now it started to plateau, so go give it a second boost, give it a round of thumbs up, and get it back in the algorithm. Cody Allen, master of all streams. Where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook Gaming, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all the major social medias. And it's going to be Cody Allen. Just be looking for me out there. We're going to make it big. This is going to make it big. I'm going to make it big. Tony, Cody, Greg, we're all going to be there. And we're bringing you guys with us. Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. Next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Until then, keep pounding.
Keep pounding.
Keep pounding.